Looks good. Okay, good morning. Today is Thursday, August 24th. This is the time and place for the regularly scheduled Nevada Gaming Commission meeting for the month of August. If you would please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah. Good morning, Madam Secretary. Have we posted our agenda in accordance with the open meeting law?
Yes, we have.
All right, thank you. At this time, I would like to remind anyone coming forward who doesn't already know that we ask you to, during public comment, speak directly into the microphone. Please speak as clearly as possible because this meeting is being transmitted electronically and is also being transcribed. So, Madam Secretary, if we could please proceed with our first agenda item, public comments.
This item is placed on the agenda to give the public an opportunity to comment on gaming-related matters.
Okay, anyone who wishes to address the commission may do so at this time. Matters brought to our attention during the public comment cannot be acted upon, but we're happy to hear comments of the public as well as from my fellow commissioners. Comments by all will be limited to 3 minutes as a reasonable time, place, and manner restriction. If any of my fellow commissioners or myself ask questions of the public, the time needed to address those questions will not be held against those time constraints. If you have any handouts or copies of your comments to provide, please do not approach the dais with them. An enforcement agent will come and grab them from you. I will first go to Carson City. Is there anyone present in Carson City who wishes to make public comment?
There's nobody in Carson.
Oh, thank you. Here in Las Vegas. Good morning.
Good morning, Diamante Asbury, DIAMANTE-ASBERRY, here on behalf of the Culinary Union. Employee benefits are vital to the everyday life of gaming workers and their families, and a holder of a Nevada gaming license should not discriminate against employees when it comes to benefits. We've previously spoken to you all about how Station Casinos discriminates against employees by providing certain enhanced benefits to some workers that it denies to others. I'm here today to let you know that the company continues to exclusively provide its enhanced benefits, which went into effect January of this year, to its non-union workers while withholding these benefits from its union workers. Station Casinos' refusal to do the right thing causes workers and their families avoidable hardship. One of these enhanced benefits is family support in the form of insurance continuation. So that means that in the event of a team member's passing, their family members would remain covered by that team member's medical, dental, and vision insurance for 6 months. Team members represented by labor unions are not included in this program or any other aspect of Station Casinos' enhanced benefits. So this means that if you're in a Station Casinos job that's represented by a union and you die, your family members don't qualify for continued insurance coverage. This is the reality. Workers across different Station Casinos properties have been denied enhanced benefits this year due to their union status. Culinary Union agreed back in December 2022 that Station Casinos should give the enhanced benefits to all workers at Sunset Station, Green Valley Ranch, and Red Rock Casino, including the workers in the union bargaining unit. Those properties could have given all workers the enhanced benefits anytime this year, but they refused. Station Casinos is discriminating against unionized workers, and we are asking you again to tell them to stop this discrimination and offer all of its benefits to workers on an equal basis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Buenos días. Mi nombre es Mercedes Cabrera. Trabajo como kitchen worker en Green Valley Ranch por 17 años. Yo tengo 3 hermanos que son miembros de unión y sé de todos los beneficios que ellos tienen. Un seguro médico, una pensión. Yo lucho por tener un contrato en Station Casino porque quiero que yo y mis compañeros tengamos lo mismo porque somos trabajadores de primera clase y merecemos un respeto. Gracias.
So in English, that is, my name is Mercedes Cabrera, Mercedes Cabrera. I have worked as a kitchen worker at Green Valley Ranch for 17 years. I have 3 siblings who are union members, and I know all the benefits they have, such as good health insurance and a pension. I'm fighting for a contract to station casinos because I want myself and my coworkers to have the same, because we are not second-class workers. We deserve respect. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else present who wishes to make public comment? It appears there's no one else present who wishes to make public comment. So that will close our public comment section. Thank you. Madam Secretary, the next item on our agenda is the approval of the prior month's disposition.
Pursuant to NRS 241.035, this item is the consideration of the approval of the Nevada Gaming disposition for July 2023.
All right, I believe each of us has had the opportunity to review the disposition. If there are no questions, I think it is in proper form for a motion.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion, please, to approve the prior month in GCC disposition.
All right, any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, it appears there are none opposed, and Commissioner Brown is not present at the meeting today and will not be participating, obviously, in any votes. Thank you. Madam Secretary, if you could please read in the non-restricted consent item.
Your item on the non-restricted consent agenda this morning is item 1. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Right, if there are no questions or comments by any of my colleagues, then it would appear this is in proper form for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move for approval of non-restricted item number 1 as read into the agenda and recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Any discussion on the motion?
No.
There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And there are none opposed. Thank you. Madam Secretary, please read in the restricted consent items.
Your item on the restricted consent agenda this morning is item 9. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda.
Any discussion on this item? It appears there's no discussion. Anyone wishing to make a motion at this time?
Madam Chair, I move for approval of restricted item number 9 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and as recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
All right. So as read into the record by Madam Secretary, is there any discussion on that motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And there are none opposed. Thank you. That brings us to non-restricted items held out for discussion. Madam Secretary, if you could read in non-restricted number 2.
Unrestricted number 2 are the applications of NEVA 1 LLC for a transfer of interest as noted on the agenda. You also have the application of Golden Landry's LLC and GNNV Holdings LLC for licensure as a manager and member. It is also the applications of Golden Landry's LLC and GNNV Holdings LLC for registration as an intermediary company of NEVA 1 LLC. Also included in the application is GNNV Holdings LLC to pledge membership interest as noted on the agenda. You also have the applications of Tillman Fertitta, Stephen Scheinthal, and Richard Leem for licensure as a key executive. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chair, members of the Commission, members of the Board, Madam Secretary. Sonia Vermees, shareholder with the law firm Brownstein Hyatt Farber Schreck, here on behalf of the buyer applicants. By way of background, GNNV Holdings LLC and Golden Landry's LLC. Let me pause for a minute because I also want to introduce Sarah Peters, who is appearing remotely. She's Senior Corporate Counsel for Landry's, and it looks like she made it in. So as I was saying, those 2 entities are registered holding companies and subsidiaries of Fertitta Entertainment, Inc. GNNV Holdings is the entity that is the member of the 2 Nevada licensees that operate Golden Nugget and Golden Nugget Laughlin Hotel and Casino. In March, GNNV Holdings entered into an equity purchase agreement with the members of NEVA 1 LLC. That entity operates the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino Lake Tahoe. So GNNV Holdings is to acquire the membership interest in NEVA 1 and in the entities that own the real property underlying that property. In May, GNNV Holdings transferred its rights and obligations, 50% of them in the EPA, to its affiliated company, Golden Landry's. The applications have been described by Madam Secretary, And we appreciate your waiver of the individuals who are on file for suitability, Mr. Fertitta, Mr. Scheinthal, and Mr. Lean. And we also appreciate that you allowed Ms. Peters to appear by video conference this morning. The transaction is scheduled to close tomorrow. The property will be rebranded as a Golden Nugget in approximately 30 days and will be known as the Golden Nugget Lake Tahoe Hotel and Casino. Upon the rebrand, we will make the appropriate filings with tax and license. Key highlights of this transaction are that the buyers intend to retain the employee base and maintain their benefits. The buyers intend to do significant remodeling of the property in phases, and they intend to wrap this company into their existing loyalty programs. So with that, we would let you ask us any questions that you have.
Okay. So the Fertitta, Scheinthal, Lean parties' appearance were waived by the consensus of the commissioners who are participating in this meeting today. And presumably that was agreed upon by all of us because of their March 2023 approvals. And so, I'm going to open it up to my colleagues for any questions or comments.
Thank you, Ms. Vermees. Thank you. Of course, the very significant thing is that this rebranding will not have a negative impact on the employees. It sounds as if everything will be the status quo, the benefits will stay the same, and all the team members will be retained.
That is my understanding. Ms. Peters can certainly confirm that.
Yes, that is correct. We will retain all the employees. If anything, we would see an increase in the employee base.
Excellent. Thank you.
Just a follow-up. Can you hear me? Okay. Follow-up question on that. I know you indicated you're going to maintain the employee benefits and such. Does that include seniority?
Yeah, everything will stay exactly the same. All the benefits will stay the same through the transition. So it's very important to us that there be stability through this and that we make it an easy transition for the employees.
Perfect. Thank you. With respect to the timing of the renovations, are you going to do that in phases?
That is correct. I don't have an exact timeline as we're in the planning and permitting phase, so I don't know exactly when everything will happen, but it is our goal to keep the property open and do it in phases that would allow us to keep the property operational.
Understood. And I understand you're going to rebrand as Golden Nugget Lake Tahoe. Does the purchase include any rights to use of the Hard Rock name, or is that going to be eliminated?
Right. We'll rebrand within the next 30 days into Golden Nugget.
Will you retain any rights to use the Hard Rock name?
No, we'll be a Golden Nugget property in the next 30 days.
Okay, perfect. And unrelated to this transaction, but there was a news report in May about an investigation relating to the dice being used at Golden Nugget in Atlantic City. Can either one of you provide an update on that?
I don't have any information on that. I'm sorry.
I don't either. I'd be happy to get that information and submit it.
I read it in the RJ. It was something that New York recommended New Jersey do an investigation. I was just curious about that. Okay. If you could follow up on that, that'd be great.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Vermees and Ms. Peters, welcome. Thank you for being here today. And I really don't have any questions, just a comment and observation. And if you can express it to Mr. Fertitta and the others. This is my neighborhood. I reside in Lake Tahoe. This is literally down the street, and we are a small community. So a $227 million capital infusion is a big deal for our little state line community. And certainly the parents of the kids who grew up with my kids who make their living off the property. It's important. I think I've been to every rendition of this property for the last 35 years. It's always been a bit tired and needed a little help. The Park Cattle Company, and that's how I refer to some of these holding companies. They've done their best. And the Hard Rock was a wonderful addition, but I think you're correct, or at least the business assessment, that it could reach another level. And with the convention center literally across the street opening, I think they had their soft opening a week ago and have a hard opening next week, a special event. You know, this is just an amazing and welcome addition. It's a global spot, and to have this kind of capital coming in is just a testament to the durability and attractiveness of Lake Tahoe as a gaming and hospitality destination. And I could not be more pleased, and will certainly fully support this application today.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Sorry, excuse me. I don't have any additional questions or comments. I agree with everything that's been said up here. And so unless anybody has anything additional, I believe this matter is ripe for a motion.
And I'll take the home game advantage on this one, if I might. Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion to approve non-restricted item number 2 as read into the record by Madam Secretary.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, Madam Secretary, could you please read in non-restricted number 3?
Unrestricted number 3 is the application of David Rettenberg for finding of suitability as a director at Excel Entertainment, Inc. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Good morning, Chair Tagliati,
Morning.
Commissioners, Madam Secretary. For the record, Erica Okerberg. I'm outside Nevada Gaming Counsel to the company. Here with me today is the applicant, Mr. Rettenberg. Also present in the audience is the company's General Counsel, Derek Harmer. We know that the commissioners have had an opportunity to either watch the board meeting or read the transcript, so we won't go back through our full presentation today. Instead, we would just refer to our remarks made there, including the overview of the IGB settlement that Mr. Harmer provided. And then we'll just share a few key highlights today and be available for questions if that's acceptable.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rettenberg has a wealth of experience from his different investments and business entities. He works very closely with the audit committee members in preparing a strategic plan and working to help the company. He's been trained in law, economics, and has a lot of on-the-job experience from his real estate and other businesses. He's working through different positions at Excel Entertainment, starting as a founding board member and now more recently becoming the audit committee chair. With that, I'd like him to share with you an overview of his duties and responsibilities in that role and share a couple details about his other activities.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Madam Chair, members, thank you very much. You know, I'm certainly pleased to be here today and to have an opportunity to follow up with the earlier discussion. My business record of over 60 years has included a wide variety of investments and operations of a personal real estate business that my father founded in Chicago in the late 40s. And we were able to practice law and develop real estate at the same time. And I'm pleased to say that part of what's enhanced our operation has been retention of employees. The woman who's been our CFO has been with me 44 years. I was only able to get her to slow down by hiring her daughter, who'd been coming in summers since she was 13 or 14 years old to take over her mother's position. The gentleman who is the outgoing CEO at the moment, been with me 35 years, and the gentleman ascending to the position has been with me 19 years. So from my own experience of working with people, the biggest asset that we've had is the ability to develop trust and communication. And I think as the outside audit chair here, it's not a matter of just checking on the numbers. I mean, given the amount of internal people that are working for the company, as well as the outside auditors, the accuracy isn't the issue. The issue, I think, today is really about developing additional lines of communication where sometimes the outside board interest for the shareholders requires an extra push both to the outside auditors and requires the development of lines of communication with the employees if they feel there's something that they need to talk about at the board level that they didn't want to communicate directly with the employees. And we don't ever know exactly what that is, but that's my strength. My strength is understanding businesses, understanding people. So in the particular case here, we obviously review the outside audit responsibilities, both in terms of internal plans as well as what's required from the outside auditors. Currently, we have one or two minor issues that need to be addressed. We've been pushing the auditors for the last several years to meet more regularly and be able to get closure on some of these issues. They're not so huge that they're impossible, but somehow we need the occasional push from the outside where they tend to be a little mother or father deaf when they're hearing it from the employees as well. So we're pushing very hard this year to get closure on the two outstanding material weaknesses that have been frankly nagging us for some period of time. We have great internal audit people. We have a new chair of internal audit. We have a new chair of accounting. We have a CFO who's been through your process. So I think internally we have an outstanding group of men and women who are able to run the company. And my job is to enable them to come to me for outside help and to be able to meet with them now on a monthly basis before the earnings are announced and make sure that everybody feels comfortable with process and comfortable with the progress that we're making with the outside auditors. Now, beyond my work at the company, I have stepped pretty far back in the day-to-day operation of Belgravia Group, which we founded in the mid-'80s, and have been working mostly with foundational activities. I've been chair of a private school, been sitting on the board of the photography department of the Art Institute, and also board of an art conservation company. And we have had two family foundations, one that we created in 1981 that enabled the legacy of my parents, both of whom have now passed, to be continued after their passing. And we've made substantial gifts both to the Art Institute, to Columbia College, to Hyde Park Arts Center in the South Loop, where we try to encourage the legacy of fine art development and independent thinking for young students in the art field who may be a little overlooked by public education. As well as that, I have a personal foundation which we have created to take advantage of some of the success we've had in business as well. So those activities fill my life. I have children and grandchildren, most of whom are on their own and would happy to see me from time to time, but not too often. So I have plenty of time and energy to devote to this. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I think the fact that you have employees that have been with you 40 plus years and 30 years and speaks to your character and your abilities as a manager and a business person, and it's really impressive. I'm going to open it up for any questions or comments by my colleagues. I'll start on this side. This time, Commissioner Kralicki first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, welcome. It's a pleasure to meet you. What an incredible story, as Madam Chair has already said. But watching the Gaming Control Board discussions with you, certainly paid attention. But there's one discrepancy I have to point out. I think previously they discussed your business history was 50 years, not 60 years. So well, it's not of great concern to me, but I just want to be consistent.
Well, the extra time was spent walking around behind my father. I may not have been independently in business, but he was. Thank you.
And your role as audit chair is also near and dear to my heart, given my background and some of the things I do when I'm not sitting up here. Who is your outside auditor, if I might ask?
KPMG.
Perfect. I have no questions. This is a wonderful application, and you are profoundly appropriate for this position and suitability.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Ruttenberg, thank you for being here and welcome.
Thank you.
Your background is, as was pointed out, very impressive. You've done some amazing things, and I really appreciate your commitment to give back to the community. Chicago is it's a beautiful city, and Definitely the arts are probably one of my favorite things there, and having benefactors like you really helps that. So I appreciate that. I didn't have any concerns about your background. We were provided the minutes from the last two audit committee meetings and also from your gaming compliance meetings. And I read those closely. Looks like the coverage you're giving the issues is very robust. You've brought on some people with terrific experience on the gaming compliance side and appear to be keeping a very watchful eye. So I appreciate that. And with that, I don't have any other questions. One other thing, with respect to the IGB complaint, I just wanted to point out that we appreciate that the company brought the settlement immediately to the board's attention. It's always nice to hear about those things from the company rather than having it in the press, hearing about it from the press.
Of course.
So we appreciate that and appreciate all your efforts in moving this along to the right path.
Ultimate transparency is what we're all seeking today in this kind of environment, particularly in a properly regulated environment such as gaming, and particularly in this state. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Rettenberg, I have enjoyed hearing about your path, and I echo Chair Togliatti's comments that the longevity of some of your team members is an excellent reflection of the kind of businesses that you run and the way you run them. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Well, if there's nothing additional at this time, does anyone have a motion?
Sure. And by the way, I appreciated your exchange with Chair Hendrick at the board meeting on the origin of Belgravia and timeline. That's always a good thing. Madam Chair, I would move approval of non-restricted item number 3 as read into the record by Madam Secretary.
Any discussion on the motion?
No.
There being none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And there are none opposed. Before we move from this item, I would say that I do want to say that when you have someone that's been in business and so successful for 60 years, it's quite an undertaking to investigate, and a great job by Agent Burke, Supervisor Kaufman, and Deputy Chief Rippey.
You did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
And they were definitely diligent and a pleasure to work with in
Perfect.
spite of their diligence. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
We're counting on it. All right. If you could, Madam Secretary, please read in non-restricted number 4.
Non-restricted number 4 is the application of Anthony Telbo for licensure as a key executive and key employee at the Cannery Hotel and Casino LLC and Aliante Gaming LLC. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Good morning. Welcome to you and to Mr. Toibel.
Good morning, Chair Togliatti, members of the commission, Madam Secretary. For the record, Greg Giordano, the firm McDonald Crono, appearing on behalf of the applicant, Tony Tobel, who's with me at the podium to my right. With your permission, Chair Togliatti, I wanted to ask Mr. Tobel to give a brief recitation of his background, education, history, and then we can be happy to answer any questions you commissioners may have of him.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Tony.
Morning, Chair Togliatti, commission members, board members. Anthony Toibel, been in the industry for about 40 years. Started back in college in Reno in racing sports, and then kind of moved on to Gaming Control Board after I graduated for 6 years. I went to Riverboats when they started opening and into Iowa, and then ran the Choctaw Pearl River Resort for 3 years. Ended up coming back to Vegas in 2004, ran the Stardust until we blew it up, and then started working on the Echelon. You know the story there. But been with Boyd for 20 years now, almost in January, and run about 7 other different properties, mostly in Vegas, a few years overseeing some properties in Louisiana as well. But just happy to be in the business. It's been my whole life in Nevada gaming, and happy to answer any questions.
Well, we appreciate you being here today. Thank you. I'm going to open it up for any questions or comments by my colleagues. Commissioner Marcantonis.
Mr. Tobel, you can certainly run the gamut of some excellent properties in town. Your experience speaks for itself, and also a fascinating example of how one broadens the experiences. did you have any favorite from all of the properties run? I'm curious. I've been asked that before in my own career. What was the most fun from the list that we had the opportunity to review with you? What would you say was has been your most fun?
Well, they all have different experiences from riverboats to Indian gaming, but probably the Stardust, the history and the legacies of the Stardust, and coming back there and dealing with all the entertainers, from Wayne Newton and different people that were performing for us there. But it had a lot of history behind the licensing and Boyd getting the Stardust and how it happened. So I'd say that's probably one of my favorites.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Teubel, your background is very impressive. I didn't make a formal disclosure with respect to my prior employment with Boyd Gaming. I've been gone over 20 years. I don't think our paths ever even crossed. When I was looking through your application, I think the only two names I recognize anymore is Mr. Smith and Mr. Thompson,
Right.
obviously besides the Boyd. So I don't feel there's any conflict with that, but your experience with them is interesting. I was part of the team that opened the Pearl River. It was formerly called Silver Star, I
Silver
believe.
Star, correct.
Yeah, so it's good to hear that the property is doing well. And again, your experience, I have no questions. It was a very clean application and we appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Mr. Teubel, welcome.
Thank you.
Your record for the last 40 years is exemplary, but a disclosure, but a professional one. I've known you for many years now in a professional capacity. I never knew you were on the gaming control board or as an agent. So, thank you for your service, but that was an interesting nugget when we get these. But I do have to just segue a little bit and take gratuitous advantage of you standing in front of me. I've got to ask you, what is your favorite winter competitive sport?
Commissioner Kurlicki, it has to be curling.
There you go. That's a good answer so far.
Yeah. We did work together to bring curling to the state and to the Orleans arena, and we had quite a great run with it.
Again, Madam Chair, thank you for indulging. And I'm not going to make eye contact with you if you don't want to indulge, but this has been a great project for many of us. Years ago, when Lake Tahoe was pursuing Winter Olympics, it made many friends with the different international federations of sport, one of which was curling. And Kate Caitness, the chairwoman from Scotland, of course, for the Curling Federation, she said, "I would like to curl in Las Vegas. Is it possible?" And you think about the world and you think about January and being in Canada and the tundra and the extreme cold. Las Vegas was a great option. And we came to you, our local organizing committee and Boyd to see if we could use the Orleans Arena, which was perfectly sized for this kind of event. And I think the quote from you is, "What the heck is curling and why would we ever, we're not a winter sport place. We beat the Golden Knights and a lot of other people to this winter and ice, capital of the planet. But I think 4 of the 5 largest curling events in the history of curling have happened at the Orleans Arena. We've hosted the Men's World Curling Championships twice now. We've had the Continental Cup of Curling several times, which is, if you're a golf fan, the Ryder Cup, North America versus the world. We've had that event several times. Just spectacular. And I think in the Boyd calendar, the Orleans calendar, next to Rockabilly, the curling was the second most attended and lovely event. And your staff loved it because our guests from Canada, they were so courteous. They made their own beds in the morning. They were just wonderful, wonderful guests. Right. So again, I just appreciate your leap of faith. For a little local organizing committee, there's been media attention. It's not always appropriate to point out the media, but Mr. Bellotta, thank you. You were there for that first curling event, and thank you for your constant support in recognizing the new curling club, which just started up in, not the club starting up. They're building a new facility here in Las Vegas, which will be the second dedicated curling facility next to the one in my neighborhood in Lake Tahoe. But Mr. Teubel, it's a pleasure to see you. Thank you for letting me take advantage of you standing here to segue into curling, but fully support your story and application.
Any other comments or questions?
No.
Anybody want to know what curling is?
It's not as easy as it looks, but trust me.
All right.
I'll give you instructions, when
Perfect.
we get there.
Let's do that later. Okay. Anybody have a motion that
Madam Chair,
They're all, no,
I'm happy to make a motion for approval of non-restricted item number 4 is read into the record and is recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
All right, any discussion on the motion?
No.
There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed. Thank you very much for being
Thank you
here
very much.
today.
Have a good
Thank
day.
you.
Thank you.
All right, Madam Secretary, could you please read in non-restricted number 6?
Non-restricted number 6 is the application of Ronald Laughlin for licensure as a key employee at Riverside Resort and Casino. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda.
Good morning.
Good morning again. For the record, Chair Togliatti, members of the commission, Madam Secretary, Greg Giordano, the law firm McDonald Carano, appearing on behalf of the applicant, Ron Laughlin, who's here to my right. He's applying for a licensure as a key employee of the Riverside Resort Casino as the Assistant Director of Operations. With your permission, I thought I'd have Mr. Laughlin give a little recitation of his brief recitation of his background, education, history, work history, and then we'll be happy to answer your questions after that.
That would be great. It's very nice to meet you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Thank you very much for this opportunity to be here today to work on my gaming license. I was born here in Las Vegas in 1966. My family went to what we call the river. And at that time, there wasn't much there. It was a dirt road. And there was the town, it wasn't really a town, it was an unincorporated something. And it was called South Point was the name of where we were. And not too long after my parents had the casino, Southern Cal Ed came in and built a huge power plant. And it just put Bullhead City and Laughlin on the map. People needed a place to pick up their mail. And so the postmaster general that was in charge of the area said, well, Laughlin would be a good name for the post office. And it's sort of stuck. So, and anyways, my family, we all lived on top of the casino up until I got out of high school. And then me and my future wife, we went to UNLV for a few years. And I worked for a distribution company here in Vegas called International Foods. And I was working part-time and going to school. And the sales route opened up for the Laughlin Bullhead area. And it was kind of a natural for me. So I would spend 2 or 3 days a week down there and was shipping several truckloads of merchandise there a week. A company in the Northeast bought out International and basically ran it into the ground and just took everything. We were on credit hold with everybody in the world. I couldn't service customers. In 1981, in our early 20s, my wife and I started a company called L&M Food Service. And it basically was located in Bullhead City where we could find some room. Over time, what we sold was paper, janitorial, food service disposables, bar supply, and restaurant equipment. We dealt with most of the casino groups here in Las Vegas, certainly in Laughlin, resorts and restaurants up and down the Colorado River, about 120-mile radius. We had the business 37 years, and we had several employees that were with us 20 and 30 years. And in fact, there's still, some of them are still there. But anyways, we sold the company in late 2018. My wife stayed on a year to help with the accounting and the payroll and all that, and I stayed there a couple of years. After I had left, I was retired for 1 month, and my son and my father asked me to come to the Riverside and come to work and help them. And that's sort of what brings me here today. That's
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. I'm going to open it up for any questions or comments of my colleagues. Commissioner Marcantonis.
Thank you for joining us, Ms. Laughlin. And you mentioned that you've had quite a few employees who have been with you the entire time that you've all been in operation? Or what is that's a rough idea of how many and what roles or capacities?
We had a husband and wife that were with us probably out of the 37 years, they were with us 35 years. And then they kept staying. They were there after we sold the company. We sold the company to someone that kept everybody working and going. That was certainly something we were doing okay. We took a little less for it, but everybody got to keep their benefits and employment and all that. But I can't hardly remember ever firing anybody, and we had a lot of people that are within there a long, long time.
And to clarify, your son asked you to come back in and give him a hand?
Yeah, my father and my son, I work with both of them. My son actually went to UNLV and graduated with a finance degree, and he worked for his mother and I for 7 years at L&M. And then the casino really needed someone with some talent, so we sort of gave one up for the team. So we let our son go to the casino, and we continued to run the company. And luckily, I found somebody to take his place.
Well, it's just praiseworthy. I speak as a father of two sons. It's very rare for that younger generation to think there's somebody who might be smarter than them who's a parent.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Well raised.
He's my boss now.
Remarkable. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, and hopefully your son carries on the tradition of not firing anyone.
No,
I'm teasing.
the employees at the
Now that you're
Riverside
working for
amaze
him.
me every day. They say they love their job. I lots of times people just, bitch about everything.
But it's a pleasure to meet you, to see you. You charmed me in front of the Gaming Control Board when I watched. But you're certainly a chapter of the Southern Nevada gaming story. Living on the, in the hotel, on top of the casino. But there's a chapter of history with your family, and I'm perfectly comfortable, obviously, with your application today. Thank you for
very
being
much,
here.
Commissioner.
Commissioner Solis Rainey.
Thank you, Chair. Welcome, Mr. Laughlin.
Thank you.
Your family certainly has a huge history in Laughlin and has done a lot for the community. So thank you to all of you for that.
Thank you.
I don't have any concerns with your application, but I am curious. Growing up in a casino almost through high school and then being part of the Laughlin family, how did you stay out of gaming for so long?
Well, to be honest, during that time period when we were at UNLV and we started our company, it's tough growing up around a casino. You see a lot of things that you should, you don't want to see, or it just happens. And unfortunately, there was a period of time from when I was 18 till in my mid 20s where I had very little communication with my father. But once we had the grandkids and everything got soothed over and everything is fine. But that's when we kind of decided why we were doing good and we just needed to go out on our own for a while. So that's why wasn't in the casino business.
Thank you. And I know you sold your business and you retired for just a month. Is this position full-time?
I work 3 days a week, and then I'm monitoring everything all the time, and so.
And you're enjoying it?
Yeah, it's keeping me out of trouble. Yeah, no,
Well,
that's
good.
it's.
And
I need to do something. I mean,
Well, since your wife retired, she's probably enjoying you being back in the office for a little bit.
watching what all she has to do around the house. She does plenty, so we're good.
I appreciate it. Well, thank you for being here and for your application, and best of luck on your position and working for your son.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Sir, I also in support of your application, and so I don't have any questions or comments. I appreciate you being here today to talk to us, and would ask if any of my colleagues have a motion.
Madam Chair, I move for approval of non-restricted item number 6, as read into the record by Madam Secretary and as recommended by the Gaming Control Board. Thank you.
All right, any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, and there are none opposed.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary, could you please read in non-restricted number 7?
Non-restricted number 7 is the application of Travel Centers of America, Inc. for deregistration as a publicly traded corporation. Recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Okay, on this application, we have a draft order dated July 7th of 23, correct?
Correct.
And
Or an order
that's-
terminating registration for the applicant. That's correct, Chair Tagliati.
Okay, I don't know if I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments on this agenda item.
I don't, Madam Chair. This is a continuation of the proceedings that were before us.
Do I, Madam Chair?
And Madam Chair, my apologies, but it just needs to be noted yet again how important this item is related to some of the communities formerly served by, the gaming enterprise, and but how this transaction evolved. Hopefully it's great business for BP, but the Shell family and business coming in, and the preservation of jobs, and the swiftness of action by the Gaming Control Board and others to ensure continuity in especially some of these small areas, small towns throughout rural Nevada is just greatly appreciated and applauded.
Well, thank you. And Travel Centers of America Commissioners are very happy to be able to accommodate all that, work this out very quickly with Bob Cashell's company. And very happy the jobs are retained and places stayed open instead of having to close. And they're pretty confident that properties are all in good hands with Robert Parker Inc., the new licensee since May. And this application here, just a follow-up to that as to Travel Centers of America's swan song, if you will, as it's departed Nevada.
All right, well, thank you. Commissioner Krulik, do you have a motion?
I certainly do. And it's my pleasure to make a motion to approve non-restricted item number 7, as read into the record by Madam Secretary and recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. At this time, Madam Secretary, could you please read in non-restricted number 8?
Non-restricted number 8 is the application of Zabin Furness for finding of suitability as a key employee at Golden Tavern Group LLC. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Good morning again, Chair Tagliati, Commissioners, Madam Secretary. I am Erica Okerberg, appearing on behalf of the applicant, Mr. Furness, who is with me today. Also present in the audience is the General Counsel for the company, Ms. Phyllis Gilland. Mr. Furness is a first-time applicant, so just for the sake of the record, we'd like for him to provide an overview of his background and a quick overview of his job duties and responsibilities.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank
Hi.
you.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, good morning, Chair Tagliati, Commissioners, Madam Secretary, board members. I am Zabin Furness. I was born in Pittsburgh. My family's from Rhode Island. I had a pretty unique upbringing. My father was a professional football player and coach. He played for 10 years for the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Detroit Lions and won 4 Super Bowls during his career. We grew up in East Lansing as he coached for Michigan State, as well as Indiana as he was with the Colts. And then we moved back to Pittsburgh as he eventually rejoined the Steelers as a coach. I was very lucky to grow up within collegiate and professional athletic atmospheres and see firsthand the diligence and structure needed to succeed. I was also very fortunate that my mother and father instilled in us a passion and emphasis on literature, arts, music. They wanted us to be very well-rounded, to become professionals in our own right. They were graduates with masters of Michigan State University. They had their real estate licenses. My mother was a teacher for over 40 years. And my brother is a PhD and professor at Penn State. So academics was a big thing for us. Before moving to Las Vegas, I studied at the University of Michigan. I obtained a bachelor's degree and concentrated on Spanish cultural studies and linguistics. I've worked in the restaurant and bar industry for many years throughout my career, including as a server at Tao at the Venetian, and worked my way up to assistant general manager at STK at the Cosmopolitan. I've been with Golden since March 2020, where I started as a tavern general manager. In February 2022, I was promoted to regional operations manager. I currently oversee 9 taverns with the general managers of those taverns reporting to me. I report to Vincent Russo, Director of Operations, and Dan Grossbeck, Vice President of Distributed Gaming. I am very honored and proud to be part of the Golden family. I work with those above me and around me who are honest and hardworking and kind and courteous, and they mirror their passions and everything we provide to our guests. In my current role, I oversee all aspects of operations, including hiring, training, team member development, payroll, auditing, maintenance, compliance, essentially every aspect from the floor to the ceiling. I'm specifically involved with the food and beverage operations in the tavern group, as well as the maintenance and hiring for the server extra. I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have for me.
Thank you. I will open it up to my colleagues for any questions or comments.
I do not have any questions. I enjoyed listening to your background when you stood before the Gaming Control Board. And I know that your educational background, was remarkable growing up in such a sporting family. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Do you have any siblings, and how many?
Oh, pardon me.
Yes, go ahead.
I have a brother who lives in Pittsburgh, who's 5 years my senior. He was PhD by the time he was 29. So the same thing, is a teacher, a tenured professor as well, but back in Pennsylvania, so far away.
I was just wondering who gets the rings, the trophies. How do you guys figure that out? I bet,
Where are they?
a fascinating segue, excuse me for that.
Yes.
But if, yeah,
Those came to me and the family, and clearly it's all within us as siblings, and we're very proud, and I'm very proud to honor, the legacy of my family as well.
well, good for you. And I'd be very happy to support your application. If we did have a golden buzzer in this place, I would press it right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's an idea.
Commissioner Solis Rainey.
Yes, thank you for being here, Mr. Furness, and welcome. Your background for was relatively clean. There was an incident in 2015. I don't want to beat you up about it, but there was a disconnect between the statement you provided us explaining the incident and the police report. So I just wanted to obtain clarification. In your report, in your statement that you provided, and I take that at face value, you said you learned a lot and such, but it indicated that you claimed you passed all the field sobriety tests, but the police report indicates that you refused them.
I believe with that situation, I was clearly arrested, and the matter was essentially reduced in terms of that. I believe at one point I was pulled over and arrested after driving home. I clearly had to deal with the ramifications of it. In terms of the specifics, I recall again, in terms of, pardon me, I'm needed to look at my notes here. I do not recall in terms of the toss up in terms of the back and forth of it. However, the eventuality of it was that I was arrested and on suspicion.
Okay, I appreciate that. For the most part, you seem to be owning up to it, but one of the things that anytime you're before any regulators, you need to be careful about the detail and the facts. So if you have no recollection about the tests or having refused or passed them, it's probably better not to make an affirmative statement with regards to that. So
Absolutely.
I'll leave it at that. I mean, it was a single, it looked like an isolated incident. You haven't had anything before or since. So I appreciate that, but wanted to just get clarification. Thank you.
Commissioner Krolicki.
I don't have any comment.
Okay. In light of there being no additional comments or questions, I'll accept what you've told us today and in your statement, and appreciate the statement about it. I noted you had a very unpleasant situation with a tax preparer that had nothing to do with anything you did wrong. And I thought to myself, nightmare.
Yes.
Wow.
Again,
You were a victim, big time.
Amazing.
yes, and most especially in any kind of dealings with myself or anything moving forward. It's clearly very meticulous and careful across the board with my own personal things and anything else in life.
Well, it's just a shame when you aren't a tax expert and you pay and retain someone for the specific purpose of giving you professional advice and direction. Otherwise you do it yourself, right? If you were an expert, you do it yourself. And then you hire someone who has a company and does this work and does this business. And then they go off and make your life, more difficult. It's a shame. Sorry that happened to you. But I appreciate you being here today, answering these questions. I don't have anything additional at this time. Does anyone have a motion?
I'm happy to make a motion for approval of non-restricted item number 8 is read into the record and is recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Any discussion on the motion?
No.
There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Okay, you want to take the break now? Oh, after 9, okay. Madam Secretary, could you please read in non-restricted number 9?
Non-restricted number 9 is the application of United Coin Machine Company doing business as Century Gaming Technologies, doing business at Ultra Newtown Tavern for a non-restricted gaming license, slot machines only. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda.
Good morning, Chair Tagliati, members of the Commission, Madam Secretary. For the record, my name is Debbie Cornine. I'm the Director of Compliance for Century Gaming Technologies. The application before you is simply to retain the property's non-restricted gaming rights. And with me today is Mr. Shlomo Mieri. He is the owner of the property formerly known as Ultra Newtown Tavern. We are here today to answer any questions you might have regarding this one-day operation.
Welcome.
Good morning.
Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. I'm going to ask my colleagues if they have any questions or comments. Commissioner Marcantonis?
I have no additional comments. Thank you, Chair.
I don't have anything either. Thank you.
I think it merits a discussion if possible. In front of the Gaming Control Board, we talked about the importance of this area and legislative intent. There was a whole package of story with you somewhat in the middle of it, but eyes are upon you, and so extensions are not something that we're delighted about. We understand, but at the same time, everyone's waiting for this to move forward. So if you could just quickly perhaps recap from my memory and comments you made in front of the control board about your abilities to move forward and being such a vital part to revitalization of this particular area.
I saw this opportunity 13 years ago, and since 13 years ago, I'm working on it with everybody to get into the finish line, and hopefully we're gonna get it done very soon.
So you don't anticipate coming back in front of us for another extension?
Not again. It's going to be done before. I mean, not probably it's going to be in construction, but we're going to need another extension because the building and the build out not going to be done within 2 years.
So if I might, just best efforts is all we can hope for and anticipate. We know there was a delay in the planning commission and, lots of other things, but I know the board and certainly, myself on this commission, we're watching and hoping, but you're pivotal going forward for this area. We wish you the best of luck, but we also wish you some speed going forward and no further delays. And you've not suggested you anticipate any, so hopefully that'll be the case.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Cornine is like, our best efforts, but a slight hedge.
Yeah,
I see the look on your face.
I did say best efforts. I use the BE term.
Yeah, we do want to be fairly cautious. I'm anticipating we will come before you at least one more time, depending on construction.
You're like this.
Yes.
Got it. All right. Any additional questions or comments? All
Just
right.
a quick comment. I know this is the fifth extension and we discussed repetitive extensions in prior meetings, but to me, this is a little bit different because because of the historical significance of this area, but also because there does seem to have been continuous efforts. The whole time there's litigation that had to get resolved and, other disputes. So I agree with
10 years of litigation.
with Commissioner Kerlicki. I mean, we'd like to see it move forward, these continuous extensions just to maintain a right that you're doing nothing with, at least for me, are not something that I favor, but as long as there's best efforts to move forward and to bring that grandfathered status to some useful purpose for the community, then I don't have a problem with it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. There being no additional questions or comments, this is ripe for a motion. Commissioner
Yes.
Marconis.
Madam Chair, I move for approval of non-restricted item number 9, as read into the record by Madam Secretary and as recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Any
Thank you.
discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Do you want to do one more non-restricted and then? Okay. All right, I've been asked to take a short comfort break. So we will do that and reconvene in 5 to 7 minutes. I know. I'm telling you, I love it too. All right, we're back on. Thank you, Madam Secretary. If you could please read in non-restricted number 10.
Non-restricted number 10 is the application of Zen Sports, Inc. doing business as Big Wheel Casino for a non-restricted gaming license, slot machines only. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda.
Hello, good morning, Commission. My name is Mark Thomas. I am the co-founder and CEO of Zen Sports, Inc. I gave a presentation to the board a couple weeks ago to kind of set the context and help everyone understand what has transpired the last couple of years. If I may, I'd just like to give an abridged version of that, as you probably have seen that.
Please.
Great, thank you. So Zen Sports is a mobile sports betting app that I helped develop a few years ago. And we were initially looking to enter the Nevada market, and that was in 2020. And our investor, Strategic Gaming Management, who owns Baldini's Casino in Sparks, as well as previously Big Wheel Casino in Lovelock, was an investor in Zen Sports and approached us about doing a deal with them to take over the leasehold for Big Wheel Casino so that we could use Big Wheel Casino as the hub for Zen Sports, and then look to additionally have Zen Sports operate out of Baldini's as a spoke, as well as potentially find other locations for the spoke. So we came before you 2 years ago. You approved our non-restricted gaming license for Big Wheel Casino, as well as the manufacturer license, distributor license, information service provider license, and we appreciate that very much. And so right after we got the non-restricted license for Big Wheel Casino, we went into the capital markets to begin looking to raise a $20 million round of funding to grow the business in Nevada. And that included, marketing and both physically and virtually, actually driving people to the casino to be able to sign up for our Zen Sports app due to the 1 foot rule that requires consumers to sign up in person for a mobile sports betting app. We quickly raised about 3.3 million of that 20 million. And then November of 2021, if you may recall, was kind of the peak of the capital markets. A lot of stocks and other securities and assets hit their peak at that time. And then things started going downward and downward spiral. We were not able to raise really any more of that money that we were looking to raise. And so we stopped at the 3.3 million, but that was not going to be enough for us to enter and grow in Nevada like we had hoped. So we began looking at different options, and that included M&A acquisition, which we actually pursued a deal with a OTC company called Keystar, which was looking to enter the gaming industry, backed by a very high net worth individual named Bruce Cassidy. We sold the Zen Sports technology platform and intellectual property assets to Keystar literally a year ago, August of 2022. The whole team from Zen Sports joined Keystar. And at that time, we were potentially going to look to also sell the leasehold for Big Wheel Casino to Keystar also. However, again, due to, I think, kind of the struggles and the challenges we were going to face as Keystar with the 1 foot rule and having to drive a lot of customers there to sign up for the app, Keystar abandoned that plan to enter the Nevada market. So as the CEO of Zen Sports, Inc., we have basically a couple of choices. We could look for another buyer for Big Wheel Casino to take over the leasehold there, which would obviously be in both Strategic Gaming Management's as well as our best interest as Zen Sports, Inc., or we could surrender the casino back to Strategic Gaming Management. We've chosen the former, or at least to attempt the former. We did have a couple of potential buyers earlier this year. Those did fall through. However, we have 3 new potential buyers that we're looking at right now for Big Wheel. However, obviously the license expires today. So we are looking for the renewal for the non-restricted license at Big Wheel so that we have the time over the next 12 to 18 months to find and go through the process for another buyer to take over the license. And that's where we stand today.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Commissioner Solis Rainey.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Thomas. We've seen you a couple of times now. You appeared before us, as you mentioned, in August of 2021 for several pages of requests that you were making. Again, last year when Mr. Kowalski came in for his key employee licensing, and then now. Each time that you've been before us, the plan has changed. It seems to have been just consistently slipping. I don't fault you for that, but there's some things that need clarification in my mind. If I recall correctly, you obtained a sublease. Let me back up. Strategic Gaming Management, SGM, had a lease to operate the Big Wheel. I believe it's in a truck stop in Lovelock, right?
That's right.
Okay. You looked into taking over that lease, but you didn't have the capital at that point to invest into obtaining the leasehold. So you went with a sublease.
For the rent itself, but we did take over the leasehold for Big Wheel Casino for the operations.
But it's a sublease, I understand.
For the rent, yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
We paid our rent on time every single month.
SGM remained as the slot route operator.
Correct.
With some kind of participation agreement. My recollection, and correct me if I'm wrong, at that point to the, I guess, compensation that you gave to SGM to acquire that leasehold interest was basically a stock warrant where they could buy 5%, but they could buy into Zen Sports for 5%.
It was a combination of both the stock warrant for 5% that you just mentioned, but also a formula based on the prior year earnings. So it was also a $346,000 cash payment that we made to them in October of 2021 when we exercised the non-restricted license for that. So it was both.
Okay. I don't remember that cash payment being referenced in the past. I looked through the transcripts. The only thing that was mentioned was the stock warrant, and then they were going to do the participation agreement to, I believe, get like 32.5%.
Yeah, it's in the leasehold purchase
of the net.
agreement for the 300.
Okay. And that leasehold, your sublease was going to expire in December of this year, correct?
Yep.
Is that still the case?
So we are, as I mentioned during the board hearing a couple weeks ago, we're in the process of getting those documents renewed. So we should have it done in the next couple of weeks. I just emailed Grant after the board hearing a couple weeks ago and let him know that, the board had recommended approval. If the commission, recommends us for approval, then we will get those renewal documents signed. Absolutely.
The principal reason that you were interested in having this leasehold, at least in 2021, and the same seemed to be the case in 2022 when you were before us, was that you wanted that foothold in order to get your mobile app in place. I mean, I just kind of glanced through the record yesterday from the prior proceedings, and you made very strong statements as far as, you weren't going to be involved with the slots. SGM was going to do everything as the slot route operator.
Right.
They were going to handle the slots, repairs, compliance. So what's the goal now?
Right. So as I mentioned before, so Zen Sports Inc. is sold all of its technology assets to Keystar. So Zen Sports Inc. is currently only running Big Wheel Casino. So from a financial perspective, it makes sense for Zen Sports Inc. and for Strategic Game Management for us to potentially find another buyer, especially one that wants to go into sports betting, both at Big Wheel Casino and at Baldini's. And so that's what we're in the process of doing right now. If by chance we're not able to find a buyer that is both satisfactory to Strategic Gaming Management and us, because Strategic Gaming Management has to approve of any buyer as well too, then obviously we will look to surrender Big Wheel Casino. Zen Sports Inc. will look to surrender Big Wheel Casino back to Strategic Gaming Management. You're correct if what you're asking is Zen Sports Inc. looking to own and operate Big Wheel Casino for the long term? The answer to that would be no. However, we've manage everything correctly out there from a compliance perspective up to this point. We will continue to do so, but we're not there to stay there for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. However, we do want to find an appropriate buyer that can take over the casino, potentially add a sports book, also potentially take over the book at Baldini's. Basically a similar deal to what Zen Sports Inc. had agreed to a few years ago.
Let me stop you there for just
Sure.
a second. With respect to what was bought, again, I didn't realize this $346 cash purchase, but you indicated in the record that at the point that you acquired the sublease, SGM maintained ownership of the slots, the FF&E, and basically you took over an existing operation, the employees, they kept doing everything.
Right.
So what is it that you acquired?
The leasehold, the right to run the
So
operations. of
just
Big
the
Wheel.
right to run the
Yeah,
operation?
that's correct.
The asset, or do the assets still all remain with Strategic Gaming Management? Do you know the term of their lease with the landlord?
I don't. I'd have to get back to you on that. I'm sorry, I just don't.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have those documents.
And they're still the slot route operator,
Correct.
correct?
Absolutely.
So assuming, and I'm not indicating that that's the case, but assuming you didn't get licensed today, the operation could continue with them as the slot route operator?
I don't know how the operation would technically continue unless they became the non-restricted licensee of the business. I don't know that rule, or from a legal perspective, what that means, because all the employees are under Zen Sports Inc. payroll. all of the bills are under Zen Sports Inc. We pay all the taxes. We file all the NGCB forms every month. We literally do everything except manage the drop and the en route of the cash from the slots to the bank.
Right. Well, I don't know that I fully agree with that representation based on your prior representations that they were doing everything, and you indicated the monthly reporting, compliance reporting, and gaming reporting that you're doing takes about an hour a month because they
That's right.
basically package everything and give it to you. I understand you're ultimately right now the licensee.
Right.
They were the licensee previously, and right now they're just operating under their license. So what I'm trying to understand, is there anybody on the board side? I don't know what their status is. Obviously, since you were licensed for that property, could a slot route operator continue operating the property at all?
This is Chief Hoffman. Yes, I mean, the route operator can participate according to the participation agreement.
I understand they can participate, Chief Hoffman. My question is, assuming, in the event that Zen didn't get licensed, what would happen to the property tomorrow?
I think it would have to go dark.
Would they have to come forward in order to, obviously they were the non-restricted licensee before.
Yeah, but they're not the licensee now. They're just the route operator per a participation agreement. So if the casino, if this license were to expire, I think there would have to be an application by somebody to be the licensee there.
Okay, and that's what I was trying to understand. That's what I thought, and there wasn't any dual track effort. They haven't done anything to become the licensee at the property again. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to understand who owned what and what exactly it was that you were going to transfer. And you answered one of my questions with respect to the employees. You essentially took over the employees for the slot operation. I think there was 6. Is that still the number?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So
and they did transfer to you, to Zen Sports, and
yeah, they've been on Zen Sports Inc. payroll since October 2021, right? Same thing for all the other expenses like the cable, the rent. Obviously, we pay that directly to the landlord as part of the sublease. So all of the expenses on a monthly basis.
and then they just share the bottom line
The
income.
only thing that gets shared is the slot revenue. It's actually the top line. Slot revenue gets shared 32.5% to strategic game management. We pay all expenses, all taxes, everything.
Okay, I understood in differently from the record before that all the salaries and stuff would be, taken out. So it was a net win that was being shared.
Nope. If you look at the leasehold, if you look at the participation agreement, all expenses are borne by Zen Sports Inc. So we do take risk theoretically every month that if the revenues are not as high as they should be, we still bear those expenses.
Your capitalization and financing was, it was a very unique financing structure. You had these safe security instruments in place for fundraising, and that's how you were securing it. I believe the safe security instruments gave the holders a right to purchase stock. What's the status of those?
No, that doesn't. So a simple agreement for future equity basically states that if the company ever chooses to raise an equity round of financing, and that choice lies with the board and majority shareholders, which is me, then at that point, the safes automatically convert to equity. They do not have a choice. They're not a warrant. They are locked into those safe agreements for as long as I say that Zen Sports Inc. is not going to raise an equity round, which we're obviously not going to do. So they will never, ever have control of Zen Sports Inc. in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, and I believe there was an expiration provision if you exited or there was an M&A event, those basically would expire?
So no, so there wasn't a traditional stock M&A event. It's based on the sale of all or substantially all assets, which has not happened. I mean, certainly we have the Nevada assets, we have other IP, so we sold the technology piece of it. But from a legal perspective, Zen Sports Inc. has not met the definition of a liquidity event.
Okay, so in the event that you did, then they would basically, their investment would be lost at that point.
No, so Zen Sports Inc. Received 6.5 million shares of Keystar Corp stock for selling the technology assets.
Okay.
Zen Sports Inc. holds that 6.5 million shares of Keystar stock.
Okay.
If and at some point there's a liquidity event, those safes would convert to equity and the Keystar stock would be distributed to those safe holders pro rata.
Got it. Okay. That helps. In October 2022, at the meeting that we had then for Mr. Kowalski's licensing, you indicated that Keystar had every intention of getting its Nevada gaming license and completing a second closing of the purchase. What was the basis for that representation? I know you indicated you weren't the CEO at the
Right.
time. Had they told you that, or is that something you'd assumed?
Yeah, they told us that. And actually, as part of the LOI from back in June of 2022, that was going to be part of the deal. But later on, not part of the initial closing, it was broken into two closings. One was the technology assets in August of 2022, and the other was the potential the second closing of the Nevada assets, which would have been the leasehold for Big Wheel Casino. That was, yes, under the prior CEO, which that was their objective and strategy. And that was the case back in October of last year. I took over as CEO of Keystar in January of this year.
But in October, you indicated they would be submitting their application within the month. So they just basically reversed course immediately after the licensing.
Yes.
You indicated that all of the employees had essentially, moved over to Keystar. I know a few of you that are involved with the Nevada operations were getting some kind of split salary.
Yeah, just Robert Kowalski and myself.
Is it just the two of
Just
you?
the two of us.
Okay, perfect. How much time are you spending at the property?
At physically the property. I'm not spending time physically at the property. Robert is going out there 3 to 4 times per week, however. So he's the GM of the property, right? He lives in the Reno area. He drives out there 3 to 4 times per week to make sure everything is up to speed, everything is working properly. And of course, the head supervisor that works there, Connie Gottschalk, she's been there for 16 years.
I know Mr. Kowalski was the key, had applied as the key employee.
That's right.
With him splitting his focus and his effort to the Keystar endeavors, who is going to act as a key employee? Is that Ms. Gottschalk?
No, so Robert Kowalski is the key employee for Big Wheel Casino. He's the GM. He goes out there 3 to 4 times per week. He manages that property. In terms of the work that he does for Keystar, it's odds making and bookmaking. It can all be done virtually via Zoom and Slack and other online tools that we have. So that part of it doesn't interfere at all with his ability to go out to the property and manage it day to day, week to week. So it's
So
him.
is he spending any significant time? I believe you moved your operations from Southern California to Florida.
Yes, that's correct. He doesn't come to Florida at all. No, he is in the Reno area. He's based in the Reno area. He absolutely spends more time physically in Lovelock than, Reno or
And
wherever
with
else.
the focus being switched to Tennessee, is he spending time in Tennessee with to work
It's-
on that project?
It's all mobile. So the Zen Sports platform is fully mobile. He can do everything virtually. There's no physical or brick and mortar requirement for Tennessee at all.
And at the board meeting just a couple weeks ago, you indicated that you're looking for a new buyer in conjunction with SGM. Does SGM want to get out of it completely, or are they only looking for another sublease that, like you said, potentially bring in somebody else that could open a sports book and do that part?
Yeah, I think it's more the latter. They really, Grant, who's the CEO of Strategic, he really would like somebody to take over and manage a sports book at Baldini's, because he loves having a sports book, but it's a lot of work to manage that, right? And it requires, a company to manage that from a dedicated perspective, although he's of course doing a great job of managing the book at Baldini's. Just, to be clear on that, but that's his preference for buyer. If it is just a buyer that was coming in and doing what Zen Sports Inc. is doing right now, which is running, the business at Big Wheel Casino, you're right. He probably would just say, well, then at that point, they would look to take it back over because they did that for many, many, many years prior to us doing it. Yeah, his strategic objectives are definitely on the sports betting side. That's correct.
And as I understand it, although there was a push in 2021 to get this license for you to operate, also the book of Baldini's, that never happened, correct?
Correct.
That
We
license.
never, as we had discussed previously, we never took over the book at Baldini's.
Okay, so that's still being run by SGM.
That's right. Mhm.
Correct.
100%.
Okay. And at the board meeting also a couple of weeks ago, you indicated that the worst case scenario, which you just reiterated, is that you would turn the operations back to SGM.
That's right.
Was that in reference to you not coming to terms with a sublease? extension, or are you not?
No, that's going to happen. That's happening in the next few weeks. Definitely at some point in September for sure. I mean, it benefits both sides to get that deal in place, so that we have the time to be able to find another potential buyer. The only way we would surrender strategic gaming the casino back to strategic game management is if we were not able to find a buyer in the next 12 months or so that was able to take over the leasehold as well as to take over the book at Baldini's.
Okay. And when you indicated that Zen Sports closed all of the non-Nevada assets with Keystar in August of 2021.
Right.
That actually was in 22, right?
22.
You said 21 on the
Oh, did I?
record, but
Sorry.
I believe it was in 22. But what assets did you sell? I understood you sold all of your everything except your Nevada operations.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So a few moments ago, you indicated you had other assets in terms of other IP and stuff.
So Zen Sports Inc. holds the name Zen Sports Inc. as a corporate name. That was something that we did not sell as part of it. So that's why Keystar Corp is Keystar Corp. But the primary asset that Zen Sports Inc. currently runs is the leasehold purchase for Big Bill Casino. Yeah.
And then the other principal asset was your app.
Yes, that's what they purchased.
Got it.
Along with the branding that goes into that and the team.
Understood. I just wanted to understand what assets you did sell and what
Sure,
you retained.
absolutely.
And there was discussions at the board meeting, and I think also at RUMP, that you surrendered certain licenses. As I understand it, you didn't surrender any of the licenses. You basically just didn't activate them.
I'm not sure what the terminology is, called by Nevada Gaming Control Board. We told Kim Creon and her team that we were not renewing those 3 licenses. If it's surrender or deactivate, I'm not really sure.
Well, they expire today. They expire
Okay.
anyways.
Yeah, we let them know. We proactively told them we were not going to renew them.
So you're not pursuing like the information provider license and such. Okay, got it. I just wanted to make sure that something else.
Yeah, just the non-restricted gaming license for Big Bill.
Okay. And just kind of going back in history a little bit of time, when you were before us in 2021, obviously there were a lot of concerns expressed with respect to the very lean financing or capitalization that you had and the lack of financing. I know there was, for instance, the compliance position that we felt was necessary in order to get you through this approval process for the app. You were very bullish on how quickly that app would be approved. And also, made very strong representations as far as the financing was basically done. You had all these people that wanted to invest and support you through the approval process. That changed very quickly. And that, going back to my earlier comment, that every time you were before us, things that you had indicated were going to happen have not happened.
Well, so we closed 3.3 million within 6 weeks. We did that very quickly. And had we kept on that pace, we absolutely would have closed 20 million in 3 to 5 months. But the reality is, and I mean, it's public information, the markets really did peak November of 2021. The capital markets basically completely dried up a couple of months later, and there just was no more funding. And so while I certainly made that representation August of 2021, that was the state of the market where things were at that time. As much as I like to think of myself as a vanguard, I'm not quite that good at predicting the markets. I did execute very quickly on what I said I was going to so far with that 3.3 million right afterwards. But the markets just dried up after that. I would have loved to have kept raising.
And obviously, we can't fault you for the market stuns, but I went back and looked at some of the statements, and you, quote, you said, a lot of investors are ready to invest in us again.
Yes.
You also said, we absolutely have plenty of investors that are very interested in backing us as we grow 100%.
Right.
We would not have any issues raising funds if we got the license. We have very imminent plans to raise millions and millions of dollars in the very near distant future, which was kind of a misnomer at the time. And it won't be a problem to raise those funds.
Right.
So that's a little bit different than just the market changing. I mean, it seemed like you were wanting to give us the impression that this, you had the funding already in place, and it was just a matter of getting the license so that you could basically execute on doing that. So
yeah, those investors did commit, and they did come in. They came in for, like I said, 3.3 million. I think if the markets had not changed, I think it would have been very easy to raise the remaining 15 to 17 million we were looking for. I did not see it being a problem at the time. I mean, the reality is there was a lot of cash available in 2021, especially for companies like us and especially for a startup, that received a Nevada license. So, and if you had asked me after the first 6 weeks, are you going to have any problems raising the rest of this 20? I would have said no. But things turned and they turned quickly. And yeah, I wish they hadn't, because I would have loved to raise the rest of the money and gone into Nevada.
Understood. And like I said, I can't fault you for what the market does, but just with your entire application, I think I was the only member of the commission that was here in 2021. And there was a number, that's one example of things where you made what I consider very strong assurances. And then they didn't come to fruition. You also, with respect to even your prior operations, you started the app in 2016, I believe, as an app for connecting people for sporting events, but then you found you couldn't monetize that easily. So you switched gears in 2018 and converted it to a sports betting app. And then in 2019, you went into the Curacao market, or you obtained a Curacao license, and using that, you went into 10 international markets. On that international market standpoint, we had very conflicting information as far as what you had. You said that you did due diligence and they gave you a list of countries that you could operate in, but then you also said, no, they actually gave you a list of countries where you couldn't operate and everything else was open. Then you said that you tasked an international law firm with blessing the 10 international sites, but then later you said, well, you really didn't retain them to give you a legal opinion. So it seems to be a little bit of you telling us what you think we want to hear. I know you obtained a legal opinion after, when you started looking into the Nevada market, you obtained a legal opinion to kind of, after the fact, bless the 10 countries that you'd gone into after Australia had an issue with your operations not being consistent with their act. That legal opinion was very thin. We talked about it, and I know that's not the international aspect of it isn't at issue now. You've left that market, but the veracity of your representations make me uncomfortable, because you've been all over the place. I think you're very bright. You have some very good ideas. They just don't seem to execute.
So I think what's before us today is our ability to run Big Wheel Casino. And I think one of the concerns that you had a couple of years ago was on the compliance side, if we would be able to effectively operate Big Wheel Casino or not. And in that regard, we've done everything correctly. Robert has taken over as a GM. He got his key person license application last year, as you know. From a compliance standpoint, we've filed all of our NGCB forms on time. We have paid all of our taxes. We have met all the compliance requirements. I know that was a big thing that you were potentially concerned about, and we have met all of those. From running a casino day-to-day perspective, which is what we're here before today to talk about, I think that we have done a great job of that over the last couple of years, and we will continue to do that. And I think that proof kind of speaks for itself. With regards to the kind of changes in strategy on the technology side, I will say that being a technology entrepreneur is not an easy journey. There's a lot of twists and turns that it takes. For example, my last company, which was in real estate SaaS software, originally started out as a for sale by owner product, and then we pivoted to a transaction management platform, which was then acquired by Realtor.com. So we made the right strategic decision. And then I would also say with Keystar, we made the right decision by being acquired by them, because we now have the backing of a very prominent high net worth individual that is very supportive of us. And we applied, as I mentioned during the board hearing, during the board meeting a couple weeks ago, for our Tennessee sports betting license in early February, and we obtained that in 3.5 months, including our technology certification. And we are off to the races in Tennessee. We are doing very well. So sometimes you have your moment in the wilderness where you have to twist and turn and find your way. But ultimately, I believe we have. And I think with specifically regarding a Big Wheel Casino, we've done a very good job of running that place for the last couple of years. The employees are very happy. The customers are very happy. And we would like for the opportunity to be able to continue to do so moving forward.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but my concerns in 2021 were far more than just compliance. I was concerned about your business probity, the competence, and the lack of experience. You had basically one individual, and that was Mr. Kowalski, that brought any experience in operations. I took a lot of comfort, although I ultimately couldn't support your application. I took a lot of comfort in the fact that, you also basically, although it's operating under your license, you basically weren't doing any of the operations. SGM was going to continue to do what they do and make that, basically get the operation continue with some input from Mr. Kowalski as the general manager. At that point, he was also the sportsbook manager of Baldini's or he was the sportsbook manager at Baldini's, and then you hired him into Zen Sports to oversee both the Big Wheel, and then he was going to oversee the sports operations of both, right?
Sure. So I still do work for Big Wheel Casino. It may not be sitting at the property every day, but I mean, I do put in time. For example, there's an issue with the air conditioner that the landlord has yet to fix. And I have been on the phone with a variety of different companies to try and get that resolved. I have been working with Robert to get room air conditioners installed in there. I don't just say, okay, Robert, you take care of it and have a good day. I am still involved, although it may not be me sitting at the property every day.
And I'm not suggesting you do nothing. My point is that in terms of making gaming operational decisions, there's not a whole lot to do from your on your side of it, because it's all being done by the route operator. And I mean, it's a tiny operation. I think it's less than 900 square feet
Sure.
in a truck stop. So
Sure.
you're not talking a lot of information. So I don't have any problem supporting another limited license for you to go forward and either decide to stay or to exit.
Sure.
I think the operator needs to be, the operator or the prior operator, SGM, needs to be prepared to, step in. So I'm surprised that there wasn't some kind of a dual track to keep this going, because I understand you express concern for the employees. We too are concerned for the employees. A few jobs in those communities mean a lot, but the 6 jobs that were there when you basically took over the operations are still the 6 jobs that are there, and hopefully it's jobs that will continue after you exit this project and move on to something else. But the inconsistencies in you telling us what we want to hear with respect to going back to international operations, there were some exchanges that we had with you seemingly overstating the success of that. I know specifically, you were saying you were telling us your revenue figures were about 100 to 125,000 a month. However, for all of 2019, I think it was like 130,000 total for the year. For 2020, it was 633. I understand the ramp up. We got through those.
Right.
But it's just that you're representing that you understood everything that was involved with certain aspects, in getting the app approved and stuff, until you didn't. When you came back in 2022, you acknowledged that the licensing process was a lot more cumbersome and something you didn't have the experience and the financing to support. So it just changes a lot, and I'd like a little bit more stability. So I'm still concerned at the end of the day with the business probity, competence, and experience to go with a license without a limitation, but I would support something with, a limitation. So I'll pass it at this point. Thank you.
Commissioner Markintonis, do you have any questions or comments?
I do not, Chair.
Commissioner Krolicki.
Thank you. I appreciate my fellow commissioners' recollection and exquisite notes. It's hard for me to engage in that because I wasn't here and I'm not familiar, but I appreciate the perspective and context. I come here today looking at the situation today. Again, your back and forth was very informative to me, but I was where you were accessing capital markets in late 2021. I understand an entrepreneur needs to be flexible and the technology. So I appreciate, you're both saying the same thing, but I don't find it a pejorative. You were dealing with the realities of the situation. So today, before me, if we are able to be comfortable and you've made it clear that compliance and the things that you need to do with the Gaming Control Board on a daily basis, monthly basis, you've fully met. And that's a good news. I'm concerned about the 6 jobs that are sitting in Lovelock, and you provide opportunity for those people and continuity. I believe you are in a bit of a pickle. This isn't what you wanted when you started this endeavor in Lovelock, but it is what it is. And you hope to make an exit in a way that works for everyone, including you and others. And I cannot be anything but supportive, of that with your application today. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Well, I don't have any additional questions. I think this has been vetted today very completely. I'm going to support this application. The board has recommended it. The reasons that were stated already by my fellow commissioners, how important it is. And so if anybody has a motion at this time.
Can I ask just one more question?
Of course.
There were concerns regarding your personal finances at the time, and I understood the reason for those. You had basically put everything you had into Zen Sports
And I didn't take a salary for 50
not take a
months.
salary for 50 months. Therefore, you were living on credit cards. You had tax liens or outstanding tax obligations to the California Franchise Tax Board and the IRS. Have those been satisfied?
Those are a payment plan. They've been on a payment plan for the last few years.
So you're still paying on those?
Yes, that's right. I pay on time every single month.
You were able to get the IRS to restart your payment plan? I think that was in process. Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. All right. With that, I would make a motion to approve non-restricted item number 10, subject to the conditions as set forth, as recommended by the Gaming Control Board. But I would add a condition that, no, I'm sorry, I wouldn't, not that I would add a condition. I would do so only with a 2-year limitation again, because I think before I would be comfortable going with an unlimited in view of the exchanges we had and the concerns that existed in 2021 that I don't think have fully resolved. I wouldn't be comfortable with a full license. So I'm fine with a 2-year limited.
Madam Chair, point of order.
Yes.
Appreciate the motion and totally, get the context and the history you have with this application and license. But I don't know that I'm comfortable with a 2-year restriction. I'm not sure that it's necessary. I believe you will come back and you were doing your utmost to, address and solve this situation. So I'm not sure if that additional 2-year is really material to what the applicant's, living with, but I would just like to have better understanding because I don't believe it's necessary, but if it's a condition essentially without consequence until 2 years from now, then, perhaps I'm comfortable, or if you have an ability to address it. I know we're in a motion phase, so I don't know that it's appropriate for the applicant and licensee to address that, but I would like clarification, please.
Ms. Freining, are we in the discussion still on my motion, which is for approval of non-restricted number 10 with a 2-year limitation?
That's correct.
Okay. So if we're in the discussion phase, Commissioner Kurlicki, what I'm suggesting is that the license they obtained in 2021 had a 2-year limitation because of the business concerns and just the lack of experience. We still have only one individual with experience. Mr. Kurlicki was approved to purchase shares that he had. I'm sorry, Kowalski. I'm sorry. Kowalski had been approved to purchase shares and he hasn't done so. So I'm just concerned with the experience and that's going to be in place should he, decide to go elsewhere. So I'm just not comfortable still with the company's experience and with their basically just their business probity. So it give the 2-year limitation basically.
And I completely understand and thank you for the further explanation. I'm looking at the half full, so the half empty, and I've seen successful and full compliance for the last 2 years or last year. Is it appropriate to ask the applicant if they would be comfortable with that condition? I mean,
Of course.
Madam Chair, through you and to you, Mr. Thomas.
So, if that's all we can get, sure. I think the one issue with doing the restriction is that just from an administrative point of view, it could be an unnecessary burden. For example, let's say we found, a buyer late this year, early next year, and let's say they take longer to go through the process. Does the fact that it has to be renewed again cause them angst and maybe want to back out or not do the deal or something like that. I will say it would be a lot cleaner deal if we for sure are guaranteed to have it past August of 2025. But certainly we will appreciate if that's all you can do, if you can do that with the restriction. I think it's cleaner, certainly, if we don't have that. I mean,
And Mr. Thomas, just for the record, like the license wouldn't transfer. If you found a.
No, I know
partner,
that.
They would have to apply for their
But-
own license, or Strategic Gaming Management would have to apply for their own license anyways.
Right. So if they start that process, but they don't know for sure if we'll get renewed in August of 2025, they could say, well, I don't know, there's too much uncertainty, or with us being part of the deal, now there would have to be additional legal and administrative work to take us out of the deal, right, if we don't for some reason get renewed in August of
You
2025.
could be on the same agenda,
Yeah, that's possible.
literally.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world if we can't, if we have to have the restriction.
And if that's a concern, I mean, I would certainly, at this point, we have a lease that hasn't been extended, that's
Sure.
set to expire in December. We have your representation, the representations for the applicant, then they want to exit within the next year. Mr. Kowalski is very experienced. I'm comfortable with him, basically running the operations as the general manager and with the support of the SRO. But again, I mean, I'd like to see you back if you were going to stay here longer than what you're indicating you're going to do. So that just gives me the comfort level that, the burden remains on them whenever a limited license doesn't shift the burden.
Understand. I don't want this item to be a cause for a split vote if that would be the case of this commission on this application and this applicant. I think it's an unnecessary and undue burden, but for the sake of the commission and unity, if again that's how the vote is, and then I'm happy to entertain or support that motion. But I just feel it's not necessary. But just so the record's clear.
Yeah.
I mean, look, the practical reality is if you were to have a deal in the works and there were no issues with the investigation and there was some logistical problems there, I don't think there's anything that limits his ability to seek an early approval, or if they're simultaneous to be on the consent,
So we could take an early renewal of that or something like that.
right. I mean, if you're in compliance 18 months from now and we have to accommodate a deal,
Sure.
I just don't see it being a problem. Like, we're not here to torture you. Right. And our people are so good that I think if you're not having any issues whatsoever, we would handle the logistics in a manner that would be convenient to the effect of your business.
Sure. That makes sense.
So with that reassurance, I mean, I don't know if I'll be here at that time, but at the end of the day, that would be my intention. And I think any other chair's intention would be if there had to be an accommodation because you are affecting what you're telling us today, we would adjust to that or
Sure.
or accommodate it, I guess I would say.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
And I agree. I mean, I have no interest in losing these jobs for these people. And
Right.
like, I think it's important to maintain them. But again, whether they go forward with you or someone else, I hope they'll go forward.
Sure.
Do you have anything else?
I do not, Chair.
Okay, so at this time, I guess if there's no additional questions or comments, there is a vote to approve this application for restricted gaming license. Non-restricted, excuse me, with a 2-year limitation that's been made by Commissioner Solis Rainey. All in favor, say aye.
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 And there are none opposed.
Thank you.
So you can get a transcript of this where I told you that your life would be made easier if you needed accommodations to affect what the plan is.
I don't know if I want a transcript of this. It's been that is a lot.
Just my part.
I'm just kidding. Thank you so much for your time, everyone. Have a great day.
All right, thank you.
Chief Hoffman here, I think you probably want to read into the record some specific language on the limitation. I think it can be done after the motion.
Okay.
And the
such
language
as-
would be the language would be, the license is limited to expire at midnight on the date of the regularly scheduled August 2025 Nevada Gaming Commission meeting.
Okay, I would incorporate herein by reference that language into the motion. Do I need to take a new vote? I'll ask my DAG.
No, it should be sufficient, Chair. It was noted the 2-year limitation.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, I believe that brings us to the restricted items held up for discussion, right? Madam Secretary, if you could read in restricted number 1.
Restricted number 1 is the application of R3G LLC doing business as Ace Liquor for restricted gaming license and the application of Rohit Gupta for licensure as a member and manager. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda.
Hello.
Good morning, or I think it's maybe afternoon now. Jeff Donato here, enrolled agent with the applicant, Mr. Gupta. Before you today, seeking approval of a restricted gaming license. And with your permission, Madam Chairwoman, would like to have the applicant provide some information about himself.
Okay, sir, thank you for being here today.
Good morning or good afternoon, everybody.
Not yet. We got 4 minutes.
Sorry. My name is Rohit Gupta. A little bit about me. I was born and raised in India. Passed high school when I was 17. Moved to Australia for further studies, went to culinary school, and I stayed about 8 years over there. Then I moved back to India for about a year. And then I came here in 2014. And ever since, just been working and taking care of the family. Decided to open the business back in 2020, right after the COVID lockdown was done. And ever since, just taking care of the business. Worked in few jobs in convenience stores, security. I was driving Uber in Vegas for about 5 years before I opened the liquor store. And I was still working during the COVID lockdown and everything. And then conversation happened with one of my friends to get into a business, and he owned multiple businesses. So he was the one who guided me through that, open a liquor store and stuff like that. And he got me in the business. And since 2020, September, we opened the store, and I've just been running the business since then.
Thank you. At this time, I would open it up to my colleagues for any questions or comments. I'll start with Commissioner Krolicki. Do you have anything?
Sure. Welcome, very interesting story, and thank you for being in front of us today. Not to make you uncomfortable, but just I do want to ask about the incident where it should have been disclosed to the Gaming Control Board, but was not. Could you just address that quickly and why that should not be a concern today, or that concern should be mitigated by the commission today?
Sure. First of all, before Mr. Donato, Serena Choi, who deceased now, she was representing me. And as I said, it's my first business. I did not know anything better. And we kind of had a family relationship because my friend who actually got me in the business, he was dealing with her for years. So he introduced me to her, that she applied for my license application for the liquor and gaming. And I'm not a professional, so I didn't know anything. And we did had a conversation. We met at a lounge, me, my wife, and her, because my wife wanted to quit her job and open another business. So she wanted to get the information, how the business works and stuff. So we sat at a lounge and conversation happened between me, my wife and her, and she told them what happened. The only reason I never really said anything because I did not know first thing, which I know now, that I have to disclose everything to the Gaming Control Board and everything since I'm in the process right now. It was just my embarrassment, nothing crazy that I had to hide it because it already happened. It's already there, but I was embarrassed because me being Indian, we never really had anything like that to do with the law enforcement, and we kind of feel disgrace, even though like you get to deal with any police or anything, it was just not my thing. So I just didn't tell her, but when my wife told him like, yeah, you know what happened? We just kind of had a fallout for a second. And so Serena asked me and I said, yeah. She was like, okay, well, anything like that happens in your personal life, since you're part of the gaming, you need to tell me so I can take care of the appropriate actions that what I need to do. So after that, I said, yes, that happened. So I didn't know. I'm sorry. Like, I will make sure. And then anything happened going on forward, I will inform you as you're the person who's representing me. So any action need to be taken, you can take care of it. After that, she said, okay, well, I'll take the necessary step. And then we were waiting on the agenda date or something. I don't know how it works. And then I tried to reach out to her in January. I was calling her for a couple of weeks, and that's when I came to find out her sister emailed me that she had actually passed away, and that's why she wasn't answering and stuff. So that's when I got in contact with Mr. Donato, and he took the application further up. So I thought it was just closed, but again, after talking to Mr. Donato, and he explained me how things works in appropriate way, and he's like, anything like that needs to be disclosed to me first thing. Do not forget. There is no embarrassment or anything like that. Just tell me. And after that, okay, yeah, that's fine. I understand what my duties are, coming into the gaming procedure and running a business as well. Personal matter, it might be embarrassment for me, but it might be necessary for anybody else to know what they're dealing with. So, yeah.
And I do appreciate that answer. And with the license, there are those requirements and obligations, and
Yes.
you've just articulated that you're very well aware of them. Again, not to be too personal, but are you and your wife still together?
Yeah, we're actually better. I'm embarrassed and ashamed of what happened, but every day is a new lesson. You learn from your mistake, and that's how we took it. And now we're like, we have a 16-month daughter.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Gupta. I'm satisfied, Madam Chair.
I would just say, not to belabor the point, but the reason, that obviously we want to encourage all the applicants to be as forthright as possible, but, we have to treat similar situations the same. And so one of the reasons for me that I want to instill upon you that it doesn't matter if it's dismissed, it doesn't matter if it's sealed, because this happens in gaming registration appeal. Work card people come in and they say, well, it was sealed, right? And we are, very clear in those circumstances. That doesn't excuse your obligation. And so I'm not here to embarrass you further or to take you to task, just simply to point out that you're just held to a standard that we have to expect from anyone in this privileged profession. So with that said, Commissioner Solis Rainey.
There was a condition that you needed to or to complete the regulatory compliance seminar. Have you attended that yet?
Yes.
You did? What do you think?
Sorry. Learned a lot about how the gaming works, regulations and stuff. Even they asked me a question and I'm just like, okay, sorry, I just missed out the whole point where you were asking. English is not my first language. Like, so what do you think when you have the gaming and if somebody try to misuse it? I'm like, first thing, they're not coming in my store. I'm in a liquor business, and if they're under 21. So first I would check their ID and make sure no minor or anybody who shouldn't have the access to the gaming, they're not there. And they're like, oh, okay, a good answer. I'm like, oh, something I'm learning. Okay, cool. But yeah, it was a good experience.
You found it helpful?
Yes, very helpful.
Good. Well, just to echo the comments, gaming is kind of its own beast, and it's a privilege to have a gaming license. So I would just make sure you keep in close contact with your enrolled agent. If you have questions, don't assume, either call the board, call your not counsel, but your representative. So take advantage of the resources around you.
Certainly.
All right. Good luck. I don't have any other questions.
I have no further questions either. Thank you, Chair.
All right. It would appear this is in proper form for a motion.
Madam Chair, I would move to approve restricted item number 1 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and recommended for approval by the Gaming Control Board.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all
I
in
will-
favor, say aye.
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 And there are none opposed.
I'd like
I'm
to
sorry,
thank-
did you have to say something?
Just said, I don't want to thank
Chief-
Senior. Oh, sorry. She's not talking.
I don't know. I keep hearing something, but I don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah, Chief Hoffman here. I think we can
Oh.
drop the condition. It's moot now.
Okay, thank you. So we need to make a new motion?
The motion was already approved. Chief Hoffman, is it necessary to do another motion and have that removed, or is that something you take care of?
I think
It's already met.
So it's already met. It does no harm to have it there, but it's not necessary anymore. And I think it can just, I don't think there needs to be a new motion. It just won't be incorporated on the license.
Okay, well, so the record should reflect that he's complied with the condition in advance.
Thank you,
You know,
Chief.
like a courtroom. The record shall reflect.
How efficient.
We appreciate that. I want to thank Senior Agent Jeffries for all her hard work during the application process.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary, if you could please read in restricted number 2.
Restricted number 2 is the application of Bar Global Enterprises LLC doing business as Padrinos for restricted gaming license and the application of Vahan Aganakan for licensure as member and manager. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Van Agnikian, Aganikian. I opened the restaurant 2 years ago, and about a year ago, I applied for the restrictive gaming license. I did take the seminar last week, compliance seminar. I would have taken it even if it was not a requirement, because in order to be compliant, it's good to know the regulations of the agency. And I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Okay, before I open it up to any questions, so Chief, is this the same situation? If there's a motion, we don't need to add the condition?
You are correct. Exactly.
Thank you. Okay, does anyone have any questions or comments for our applicant today? Thank you for being here, by the way.
Thank you.
Well, it looks very straightforward. Because of the open meeting laws, I can't kibitz. That's KIBBUTZ, I think, for the record, with them in advance and find out if they're going to have questions or not. So we have you come here. It's a new application, so we appreciate it. But at this point, with the investigation and everything, nobody has any questions. So I'm going to ask for a motion.
Madam Chair, I would move for approval of restricted item number 2 as read into the record minus the condition, which has already been satisfied.
Thank you. Discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And there are none opposed. Congratulations. That was the easiest thing ever, wasn't it?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. All right, Madam Secretary, could you please read in restricted number 3?
Restricted number 3 is the application of Wild Dunes Inc. doing business as Gypsy for restricted gaming license and the application of Jerome Massini for licensure as an officer, director, and shareholder. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda.
Hi.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the Commission, Secretary. Marion Perry with the law firm of Ballard Spahr, representing Wild Dunes Inc. and its sole officer, director, and shareholder, Mr. Jerry Massini. We would love to be even quicker and easier than the last application. I gave a pretty detailed as far as summaries go presentation at the board meeting, which I am confident you guys have had a chance to review. But Mr. Massini and I are here to answer any questions. When I spoke with Senior Agent Jones, she said it would be appropriate to give an update. And I actually have an update to provide, which is our final zoning approval. I got a record of this morning, right before I walked in the door. So we're hoping that the patio outside can now complete construction and we'll be ready to get set for an opening.
Congratulations on that. Thank you for being here. We appreciate your appearance. At this time, I will open it up for any questions or comments.
No questions from me or comments. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Krolicki?
Just for the record, I didn't know you were from Ballard Spar. I'm about to engage Ballard Spar, some of your colleagues out of the Minneapolis office for completely unrelated issues, but I don't think that presents any issue today. The Gaming Control Board meeting was very informative. 13 machines instead of 15 because of space issues. It's nice to know that you've got the zoning approval. Bishop Gorman, UNLV, your great local story. So all good. I'm perfectly comfortable with this application and intend to support it.
I don't have any questions either.
Bishop Gorman, UNLV.
You should have been a
But he asked
judge.
me what the points were he should include in his personal background. And I said, well, I think Bishop Gorman and UNLV would be good points to include when you talk about your background.
Well, thank you. So it appears that this matter is ripe for a motion at this time.
Madam Chair, I move for approval of the restricted item number 3 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and as recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Any discussion on the motion? Oh, conditions? Did you say? Oh, we don't need the condition, right? Are you going to amend your motion to exclude the condition as it's been previously complied with?
No, we're not at that. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know.
There are 2 different conditions and we're fine.
What are the conditions that we're,
It was with respect to.
well, so you said as read into the record by the executive secretary,
That's right,
correct?
I did say that.
And you said as with conditions. So I think we're good.
Yeah.
Okay, so the motion does include what was read into the record by Madam Secretary, which included conditions. Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And there are none opposed. Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
All right, Madam Secretary, could you please read in restricted number 4?
Restricted number 4 is the application of 95 North Lounge LLC doing business as Lounge 95 North for a restricted gaming license and the applications of Jerome Harry and Danielle Dotto, licensure as a member and manager. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda.
Dennis Gutwald with the law firm of McDonald Carano. With me today is Jerome Harry and Danielle Dotto. And with your permission, I'll have Jerome tell you a little bit about the property and about himself, and then I'll have Danielle tell you a little bit about himself and open it up for questions.
We'd appreciate that. Thank you.
And they have attended their classes.
Okay, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Jerome Harry, if I just give a little back history of myself. I was at High Desert for about 8 years in law enforcement. I took my PERS money and took the adventure to come downtown at the Jewel High Rise and open up a bar, which has been very successful. I started off as a leaser. Now I actually own the building within the bar itself and 2 one-bedrooms above it. Maybe only had 1 incident in the 8 years, just made my 8 years this month for being open. I believe in first thing is protecting the individuals that's coming into our location. And coming to our location is I follow the rules. And following the rules is you have to make sure you have all the correct licenses to open up a business. And this is why half of the business in Las Vegas gets shut down because they go and not knowing the rules and the regulations of carrying out the business at hand. So with that said, just a little back history of the being in law enforcement, starting off at the front door, being downtown, dealing with all the homeless people and dealing with just everything that's happening downtown. You have to be pretty much strong stand to actually make, a successful business happen, and actually having qualified people to actually come to your facility and feeling comfortable as well. So in 8 years, I was able to accomplish that, just to give a little back history of myself. So with that said, I met Daniela. At my location, I have considered a snack bar. Daniela's a full-time chef, so much experience from Italy. And for us to team up with him being a chef, with me running a bar all the years I've been running my bar, for us to come together and come to Centennial, which I used to live in Centennial, so I know the area very well. So I think that's what's missing is, like I said last time, is not only the gaming, but we want to be considered food, then gaming. And I want people to feel comfortable. We're not allowing no hookahs, we're not allowing no cigars, we're not allowing no kind of smoking in the facility, period. And I want people to feel comfortable and professional when they come into our location and feel safe. So if they want to have a cigarette, step outside. I did it on purpose of making my concierge, my security actually at the front door so they can see all the activity moving from the gas station, from the dispensary that's next door. So making sure when people is coming out the dispensary, not coming into our location. So it was only supposed to be 3 cameras. I put 7 cameras. So I just want to make sure everybody is safe and we're doing everything possible to make sure everybody's comfortable. And that's pretty much what's going on.
Well, let me say, as someone who drove downtown every day for 27 and a half years and worked downtown for 27 and a half years. So I'm very familiar with downtown Las Vegas. So smart. What a smart way to approach the security potential issues and your client comfort levels as far as managing that. I would say that 8 years with NDOC is, I used to kind of describe my time on the bench as dog years. I would say, people say, oh, you left, oh, you miss it. And I'm like, 118 dog years was enough. And you were like 56 dog years at NDOC.
Right.
So good for you. Glad to hear about the cameras. So smart on the security. I just am really impressed with that. And I appreciated your presentation. Do we have any questions for Mr. Harry?
I don't have any questions.
None.
Good morning, Commission. I'm Daniele Dotto, born and raised in Italy, Venice. So after I graduated on my culinary school, I worked for several years in Venice, Piemonte, Torino, that area for different restaurants, high-end restaurant, regular restaurant, different situation. And after that, I moved in Spain. I stayed there for 5 years, Barcelona and Valencia. So I had the chance to learn different technique, different cuisine. And after that, I moved here in Vegas back in 2021. And I worked for the Venetian for a private restaurant. I started as a sous chef in an Italian restaurant, then I opened as a chef, executive chef, another 2 restaurants located at the Palazzo and the Venetian. Finally, in 2016, I have a chance to open my own restaurant in Henderson. And I ran this restaurant for 7 years already, very successful. Last year in 2022, had opportunity to open after COVID my second location in Anthem, a little bit more restaurant, like daily restaurant. I consider it daily lunch, but at the end I have 50 seats, so it's a decent size. And finally, I met Jerome, and we come up with this, idea to open something together and create something, I don't want to say different, but at least, a bar and combine a good food with different international dishes and specialty cocktails. So combine the idea of have a gaming and a good quality food and drinks. So that's all. Yeah.
Thank you very much for being here today. We appreciate hearing from you. It's all very exciting. But I will open up to any additional questions or comments of my colleagues.
Just one comment that any enterprise that helps to revitalize downtown is very important for this community. I haven't had as many dog years as the chair in downtown, but nonetheless, it's something that is our priority and should be our priority as a city. So thank you for your efforts.
I just wanted to clarify, this property is actually in North Las Vegas, right?
City.
It's 89130 zip code. Is that where the property is?
In Centennial.
Yeah, 6050 Sky Point.
Yes.
Is this restaurant open? I know you have your bar at the Jewel.
Yes.
This is a different project.
Yes.
Not downtown.
Correct.
That is
95. 95 North. So it was a restaurant prior.
Right.
So we actually came in together to come together to open up the restaurant. So
is the restaurant open now?
no. Well, we're just waiting on the outcome of the things that we're working on right now, but the build out is going fabulous. When you guys come have lunch or dinner there, y'all going to be very, very pleased.
Right. What's the anticipated opening date? Is it still September, I believe?
Yes. So we shooting for September the 5th. Everything is pretty much, we've been working. So we both run businesses. So he be there in the morning, I'll come in, we overlapping. So we've been like 24/7. So yeah.
Good teamwork.
Yes, yes.
So there's not going to be any bar food at this place?
Of course, we're going to have a bar food and also some Italian dishes, some food from
Gonna mix it up there?
There'll be a mix, but
Good.
yes, bar food for sure. Yeah.
Good. Well, it sounds like it's going to be a great collaboration, and I look forward to hopefully stopping there at some point. But I don't have any other questions. I just wanted to make sure I was understanding that properly, because you have your own businesses elsewhere, and
Yeah.
you have the property in Anthem, and I believe another restaurant that are non-gaming. Your bar downtown is non-gaming, and now this collaboration is the restaurant bar with a gaming.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Your downtown property is the 8-year property.
Yes, correct.
Track record.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Perlicki?
Just to pile on, but in a good way. I mean, this application really does make me smile. Whenever I'm from St. Louis, and South St. Louis is an Italian food festival with toasted ravioli, and I'm always looking for good toasted ravioli, and I can't find it outside of St. Louis.
You're going to find in our place.
There you go. All right, then I'm incentivized. I hope that's not a conflict. No, but you're so proactive in front of these issues, as Madam Chair said. I mean, certainly the cannabis distribution next door makes it an issue, but again, you're just so on top of it, and I want to say thank you for what you did at High Desert for a long time. As a former state employee, I appreciate your role and your public service, but what a great combo. It was very exciting. No issues, fully support.
So do we have a motion?
Put a toasted ravioli condition on there.
No.
But
That'd be one of
Chief
the bar
Hoffman,
foods.
Chief Hoffman,
I am
Chief Hoffman here.
and we don't
Wait,
need, I know what
Chief's
you're going to
talking.
say,
Sorry.
Chief. We don't need the 90-day condition because they've already complied. Correct. All right. Thank you, Chief. I would move to approve restricted item number 4. The condition has already been met, so it doesn't need to be part of this motion, but the application as read by Madam Secretary and recommended by approval of the Gaming Control Board, again, without the condition because it's already been satisfied. Toasted ravioli.
Any discussion on the motion?
I just want to say you didn't condition the Rio's approval on the buffet, so I don't think you can add the rest.
That was Judge
Yeah, that
Assad's
was,
deal. Yeah, not mine.
I don't have any other questions or discussion. Thank you.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed. Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate your patience today. Thank you. Madam Secretary, could you please read in restricted number 6?
Restricted number 6 is the application of Sean Orleski for licensure as an officer at Golden Dollar Inc. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
I'm a little slow.
It's all good.
Broken foot.
Good afternoon. No pun intended, but a privilege to be here in front of you guys. My name is Bradley Emery. I'm president of Golden Dollar Incorporated, and this is my big sister. So she's the one before you to be licensed as an officer. What you have before you essentially is part of our succession planning. Mom and dad had started the business. We're kind of the second generation, so just working to make sure that we've got continuity as we move forward with the business. Sean Orlesk is here.
Hi.
Hi.
Sean Orlesk.
Nice
Thank
to
you.
meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay.
Any questions?
I was just going to ask my colleagues and offer for them to ask you any questions or make any comments they might have.
No, I'm satisfied right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
I thought the family succession planning and estate planning was very clearly stated in the Gaming Control Board hearing, so fully comfortable and plan to support a motion.
I also don't have any questions. It was pretty clean and, you know, the advanced planning is always helpful to everybody involved and you'll be very thankful at some point.
Absolutely.
So with that, I'd be prepared to make a motion.
Okay, please.
I move for approval of restricted item number 6 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and is recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed. Thank you very much for being here
Thank
today.
you so much.
We appreciate it. Madam Secretary, could you please read in restricted number 7?
Restricted number 7 is the application of Sartini Gaming LLC doing business at Rayleigh's number 103 to add, remove, or modify a condition. Recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda.
Good afternoon. I started to say good morning, but we're past that 4 minutes. So Chair Tagliati, members of the commission, Madam Secretary, and members of the board, thank you for your time. We are here, Phyllis Gilland, representing Sartini Gaming, to ask to modify a condition on this particular location, Israeli's number 103 out of Reno, Nevada. The current condition is a full-time attendant must be on duty at all times. Machines are made available to the public for play. We would like to modify that to an employee of licensee or business operator who is at least 21 years of age shall be assigned to supervise and actually monitor the machines at all times. The machines are available to the public for play. We did go through quite a bit of information at the gaming board. I'm happy to go through again if you need or answer any questions you might have. I have with me in Reno, Carson City, I forget where they are, Jen Madole, who's the director of our Northern Route operations, and Carrie Daniel, who's the director of our supermarket operations, in case there's any questions that we can answer.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here.
Rayleigh's is in Reno. We will have supervisors and cashiers and managers at the locations trained routinely. Carrie is out at the location. We have people at the locations constantly. We did talk with the board on several conditions of where the locations would be always manned. I know Carrie has spoken with the locations. They will be always manned. One of the things that the board did ask was that we review surveillance, which we did. We've now gone out to all locations with this stipulation and reviewed the surveillance. We're updating as needed, if needed. I think we had some flat mirrors. We're putting in dome mirrors and some things like that. So we did complete that on all of our locations as requested. We have a history of these locations. We did have one issue in March of this year at Rayleigh's where a person took a day off and a supervisor did not manage a location, a cashier station. That was corrected immediately. So since we've been doing this since 2016, I believe, that's, to my knowledge, the only location we've had an issue with this type.
Can I ask, and I'm sorry if I missed it at the meeting, how did that come to your attention?
That came to our attention with a notice from gaming.
Yeah, I just,
They were at the location.
that left my
Lucky.
mind, so I apologize.
No, that's fine.
Okay,
Chairman, could I interject a quick question?
Sure.
Yes.
Did you also have issues at a location here in town at Mariana's, or is that a different?
Mariana's, I do believe, yes, that we did. I have to go back and double check, but earlier in the year, possibly at the beginning of the year at Mariana's. I have to remember that may have been a participation agreement, but yeah, we did have one prior with Mariana's, also corrected immediately.
Yeah, it sounded like it was a similar incident where somebody called in and they didn't assign somebody to take care of that. So just for clarification, is the cashier or the supervisor that's assigned to provide this monitoring, are they also performing their other functions as either a store supervisor or a
Yes,
cashier?
they're at their cashier station. We have the cashier's front end is also trained, management is also trained. If we have any issues like that, we speak with the management immediately, remind them, letters if needed.
Yeah, I found, it looks like in March you had an issue at a Mariana's.
Okay.
Locally, similar issue, and
Yeah,
their solution was to turn off the machines if they didn't have somebody available to monitor them.
That is a solution that works fairly well. If for some reason we're notified, we ask to be notified, the machines will be turned off.
I'd be interested in the thoughts of my colleagues. I don't like this trend, just generally. I mean, I don't think we seem to be piling more and more on these cashiers and store people to do multi-functions to handle the deli, the juice bar, the cashier, and now supervising it. So I'm a little concerned with that, but I'm, also, I mean, it's not for us to run the business, so I would defer.
I understand the concerns. They're smaller locations. We are there. Carrie, how often are you at Rayleigh's? You said 3 to 4 times a week at least?
We have a team of 4 that does daily stops, so we are there a minimum of 6 days a week.
We're doubling up on understanding the needs of that kind of a location.
And obviously what's driving this is the cost savings and not having a full-time attendant dedicated to that role.
Cost savings is important, but so is finding people in the area to work and stay working. It's a turnover situation as well. So it's a way to, it actually provides more people, front end, cashiers, manager, surveillance. So it's a combination of it. It's, as I said, we've been doing it for quite a while, and I don't believe we're the only ones, but it seems to work. We don't, great, this year we had 2 issues, but we really haven't had in the past. So it's not just strictly cost savings. Or we have quite a few supermarkets. So I would be asking for, 50 Smiths or something like that. So it's not strictly a cost savings mechanism.
Yeah, I'm at the Marianas on Eastern frequently, and those supervisors are always running crazy, and there's long waits. Usually I'm there at the deli part of it. So I just don't know how they could possibly take on more, but I'm glad that it's been successful.
I understand that, and the theory is that the supervisors that are supervising those cashiers understand that piece of the duty as well. So in effect, hopefully it's a different cashier or another person who's running the extra.
Any other questions, comments, concerns?
No, I thought that the discussion of the Gaming Control Board was satisfied any of my questions, very robust and thorough. Thank you.
And that's my comment also. It was very informative, the control board. Before I started my new responsibilities here, it's something I didn't really think about a whole lot. For the record, I don't have a Rayleigh's where I live, but I have a Safeway, and there's a full-time attendant, and it's Tahoe Douglas. So, it's a very limited revenue store. So, I mean, other folks have done it. But I think the important thing here is the broader conversation. I think everyone's aware, you all have revisited, you've inspected, and just reminded people what the responsibilities are. So I think this process has been very informative and remindful, and best practices need to be maintained, and we're all watching, as are you. So top of mind, but comfortable moving forward today, certainly.
If I might add, I'm the contact for the Gaming Control Board on issues like this, so they come directly to me. I tried, I tried to dole those out. They come directly to me. Everybody, Carrie and Jen can tell you, they don't get a very long time if there's an issue to handle it. We generally respond, and I think that the agents could tell you, we generally try to respond that same day. If there's an issue, we deal with it, go out with the management, training, whatever we need to do. So we understand the concerns and just don't want to be in that position.
Thank you. Does anyone have a motion at this time?
Yeah. Chair, I move for approval of restricted item number 7 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and as recommended by the Gaming Control Board. Thank you.
And
Yeah, as read into the record. Yeah.
okay, any discussion on the motion? There being no discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And it appears there are none opposed.
Thank you very much. I'm next as well.
Madam Secretary, if you could please read in restricted number 8.
Restricted number 8 is the application of Sartini Gaming LLC doing business at Rayleigh's number 114 to add, remove, or modify a condition. Recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda.
Thank you again, Chair, Commissioners, Madam Secretary, Board. Phyllis Gillen for Sartini Gaming, and I will reread. This is the same instance for Rayleigh's in Carson City. We would like to change the one full-time attendant must be on duty at all times. Machines are made available to the public for play. Condition to the following: an employee or of licensee or business operator who is at least 21 years of age shall be assigned to supervise and actually monitor the machines at all times. The machines are available to the public for play, and the same information and rules apply as we've provided for the Rayleigh's on the prior item in Carson's in Reno.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additional questions or comments on this item?
Perhaps just a question, and maybe not directly to you, but just generally maybe to the Deputy Attorney General. If issues become evident not having the full-time dedicated slot supervisor, how does that would come back to us, and we could put a condition on at any time for the full-time to revert back to the original formula?
At that point, it would be up to the board to bring any type of discipline. It saw fit.
Again, we can't overtalk this issue because it is so important, especially because kids and other folks are running through. So I know you were incredibly sensitized to the issue. So again, I think we'll be accommodating, but watching.
Yeah, I understand completely. And as I said, I'm the person who gets the emails from the board. So, and they know my phone number.
Right. Any additional questions or comments? There being none, does anyone have a motion?
So, Chair, I move for approval of restricted item number 8 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and as recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Okay, any discussion on the motion as read in by Madam Secretary? The agenda. No discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and there are none opposed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, I believe we're moving to restricted number 10.
Restricted number 10 is the application of Sartini Gaming LLC doing business at Reno Sports Dome for restricted gaming license. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Okay. Good afternoon again. Phyllis Gillen for Sartini Gaming. This is application for a new space lease for Sartini to manage the gaming operations at the Reno Sports Dome. I have with me Jennifer Madole from Carson City office, our North Nevada office, Director of Northern Route Operations, and with me I have one of the Reno Sports Dome owners, Owen Blake, for any questions you might have. The Sports Dome is basically exactly what it says. It is a fields and offers sports offerings for adults, youths, camps. It offers classes, rentals, parties, batting cage simulators, merchandise. It has turf fields, hard courts, viewing lounges, concessions, does have a bar, and Mr. Blake can tell you further, but soccer, flag football, lacrosse, basketball, volleyball, softball, t-ball, dodgeball, futsal, cornhole, kickball.
No curling?
No, but
Yet.
Yet. You've heard the wish.
Pickleball?
Do you have pickleball?
Yes,
There
we
you
do.
go.
There you go.
So I missed one. And they do have a robust website that provides view of the location and their attributes. So any questions you might have on that, we're happy to answer. They are full service. The bar is enclosed. It has been operating for 12 years. I believe you've had a liquor license for 12 years. They're very versed in managing the bar location.
Thank you for being here today up in Carson. We appreciate it. I'm going to open it up to my colleagues for any questions or comments they might have.
Thank you all for being here. Quick question. It sounds like an incredible sports facility, but I was curious, is it the type of facility that's available for private events?
Yes,
Mr.
it is.
Blake,
Yes, it is.
With with the I guess caveat that maybe you haven't encountered this. If there's private events, is the level of supervision over the gaming devices, would it be the same?
I'm going to say
Absolutely. There-
yes.
Yes,
Go ahead,
absolutely. We would not have a private event without our staff there.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure of the size. I mean, it gave square footage, but I'm not good
Yeah,
at visualizing, so I didn't know if somebody
It's
would
very big.
take over kind of the entire facility.
Do you have full facility events?
We do have full facility events. Again, it would be staff would be there. We have groups that will rent out a number of the fields or courts at the same time. So when I say like a private event, it would be, say, just a club would be able to come in and use those during certain times. But we would have our staff at the bar or restaurant and always there supervising.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't have any other questions.
A question about clientele. I think you're just on the east side of the UNR campus. Is that much of your foot traffic, your customer base coming through? And again, because there'll be students, any special attention to that?
Actually, when we first opened 12 years ago, I thought that we would have more traffic from the university. We actually, because they've got their intramural leagues, things like that, they tend to stick to the university. I would say the majority of our clientele are people between the ages of about 25 to 34. That's our average clientele, who are, done with college and are out in the community, have a job, and are just looking for, a weekday activity or a weekend activity.
That's fine. Thank you.
Anything else?
No, Chair.
I don't have any additional questions. Thank you very much, Mr. Blake, for being here, both of you, actually. Does anyone have a motion?
I move for approval of restricted item number 10 is read into the record by Madam Secretary and is recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And it appears there are none opposed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we'd like to thank Agent Heather Partee as well. She did a nice job for us. We appreciate it. Thank you.
So Madam
Thank you.
Secretary, we're being asked to pull something out of order for a family emergency. Is that correct? Or to excuse an appearance, one or the other. I can't control what's going to happen if I excuse the appearance. So I can pull it or I can say, go ahead and go.
No, it would be the complaint and restricted number 14. I am waiting to hear back right now what the decision is.
Okay, then we're going to move on to, I'm trying to be sensitive to it, but I'm trying to also be efficient. Okay, we're going to call the next in order. Thank you.
Right. Restricted number 11 is the application of Crawford Coin Inc. doing business at Green Valley Grocery number 77 for restricted gaming license. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda.
Hello.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, Madam Secretary, William Erga on behalf of the applicant and David Crawford, the president, here to answer any questions. Hopefully I don't have to answer any.
Thank you for being here and thank you for your patience. I don't have any, it's straightforward. I don't have any questions, but I am going to open it up to my colleagues for any questions or comments.
I don't have any questions for the application before us, but I think it's important to note that, am I saying it correctly, Mr. Iger? Right? How do I pronounce your last name? Erga, as a former gaming commissioner for the state of Nevada. So I'm many years ago in the early 90s, I believe, but I've never had the pleasure. But thank you for introducing yourself today.
Straightforward. And no questions from me, Chair.
I also didn't have any questions. I thought both this one and 12 are related and they're both very straightforward.
We appreciate your patience and waiting for us to call your matter and being here today. There are no questions at this time. I'm going to ask if there is anyone ready to make a motion.
Madam Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion for approval of restricted item number 11 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and is recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
All right, any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
The next one too.
Yep. Madam Secretary, if you could read in number 12.
Restricted number 12 is the application of Crawford Coin Inc. doing business at Green Valley Grocery number 84 for a restricted gaming license. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda.
Any questions or comments by any of my colleagues?
You know, this, Madam Chair, this one, like the last one,
Yeah,
I think it's
exactly.
very straightforward. I do appreciate that they're both new locations, so I like to see that. I mean, it's always good to bring new businesses into the fold, so I'm prepared to make a motion unless somebody has
Okay.
any questions. I move for approval of restricted item number 12 is read into the record by Madam Secretary and is recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
you.
You have to work very hard.
I'm sorry. I mean, I didn't see it and then all right. Madam Secretary, if you could please read in restricted number 13.
Restricted number 13 is the application of United Coin Machine Company doing business as Century Gaming Technologies doing business at Lucky Spot for restricted gaming license. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda.
Good afternoon, Chair Tagliati, members of the commission, Madam Secretary. For the record, Debbie Cornine with Century Gaming Technologies. Also with me today is Mr. Rapindra Chima. He is the owner and operator of the Lucky Spot. We are here to answer any questions you might have.
Do you have any questions on this side?
I don't have any questions. I just wanted, for the record, thank, I'm sorry, Mr. Chima, sorry, I'm getting the two confused. Yeah, for your cooperation over the last 2 years with a condition that was placed on previously. And I understand now you're going to a space lease, so it's pretty straightforward.
Thank you so much.
Any questions or comments?
No, Chair.
All right, we appreciate you being here today and it appears this matter is ripe for a motion.
I move for approval of restricted item number 13 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and as recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It appears none opposed. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much.
Appreciate it.
All right, so that brings us to the matter of our stipulated item before we finish our restricted agenda. I'm going to ask Madam Secretary to read that in.
Next, for your consideration, you have a stipulation for settlement in order, settling the complaint filed in the matter of the Nevada Gaming Control Board versus Artesian Partners LLC, doing business as Peavine Tap House Eats and Beats, and Anita Marie Nobles and Matthew Todd Reardon, case number 23-06.
Okay, so if I have Senior Dag Somps here, right, on Zoom, and then good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairwoman, members of the commission, Madam Secretary. Jeff Donato here, enrolled agent. With me here in Las Vegas is Ms. Noble, and appearing in the Carson City office is Mr. Reardon. And we're here to answer any questions that you may have.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, Madam Secretary, this is Mike Somps with the Attorney General's office here on behalf of the Gaming Control Board. I do have a brief presentation if you'd like to go through what's before you right now as far as the disciplinary matter.
Yes, if you could just give me 1 second. The Mr. Reardon is the person who left because of a family emergency. He had communicated with our staff and was communicating with our staff about whether he could be pulled or called early or be excused, or, he's trying to manage that in this. I didn't see that ask until maybe a few minutes after it became, exigent for him to leave. So he's not there in Carson, but he did try to communicate with.
I know he was texting with me, but I was my understanding he was still in the Carson City office.
I gave him the option, you can leave and we'll see what happens. Because I can't, obviously promise anything, or I'll try to pull it. And he, left.
Okay.
Which I'm not going to be held against him. So I suggest we proceed, let our Senior Dag go through this, and then we'll, discuss.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Before you for consideration is a settlement between the board and the respondents, which in this matter include Artesian Partners LLC, Ms. Noble and Mr. Reardon. This settlement resolves a complaint that has been filed along with this settlement. And just to give you guys some background, as you may recall, this disciplinary matter is related to respondents' transfer of interest application, which was on the board and commission's May agendas, but was continued by the commission to allow the board to resolve the regulatory violations that were present. And as you know, that transfer of interest application is on your agenda today. Going through the background here for the complaint, the violations in the complaint stem from respondents' actions after applying for a restricted gaming license back in May of 2020. At that time, they had applied for the license, and then on July 10th, subsequent to their application, they entered into an agreement to transfer Mr. Reardon's 50% interest to Ms. Noble for the consideration amount of $150,000. $75,000 was to be paid immediately, and then $75,000 was to be paid immediately subsequent to the granting of the license. And of course, as you know, neither the board or the commission was aware of this agreement at the time of the licensure, which was granted in April of 2021. And then in accordance with their agreement in June of 2021, the additional $75,000 was paid. So we have 3 counts contained in the complaint. The first count alleges a violation of regulation 8.050, which pertains to the transfer of $75,000 after the license was issued. Count 2 alleges a violation of NRS 463.5733 and Reg 8.020. That's for the purported transfer of interest to Ms. Noble without commission approval. And then the third count pertains to a violation of Reg 4.040. That arises because when respondents were seeking their restricted license, they failed to disclose the transfer of interest agreement and the transfer of the $75,000. That's the complaint. The settlement's pretty straightforward. The board and respondents have agreed to a $3,000 fine. That fine is commensurate with other fines that the commission has approved for similar transfer of interest related violations. Of course, this one takes into account the failure to disclose violation. So that's the complaint. That's the settlement. Obviously, Ms. Noble is here to answer questions, and I am as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments by the commissioners?
Thank you. I'm glad this has been settled. It's something that Ms. Noble, I don't attribute any bad intent to you, but as we discussed when you came before us before, the affirmative misrepresentations during the actual licensing proceeding were something that were concerned, I know, to at least a couple of us that mentioned it. I understand that was probably fear that you somehow needed to keep the application as it was. It wouldn't have made a difference. And hopefully this has been a learning experience, but I'm satisfied with the settlement. And, again, I do believe it's been a learning experience. If not, I would take it as one, and hope we can move forward from that point. So thank you.
Commissioner Krolicki?
And I'll echo that. It's been a learning ordeal for you, Ms. Noble and Mr. Reardon. And I do hope that Mr. Reardon's family situation is not so serious, but understand that he needed to leave and try to communicate. Deputy Attorney General Somps, thank you for doing that. I think it's eminently fair. My question was, treatment, is this the amount to fine, the $3,000, similar to other situations, and you've already asserted that that is indeed the case. So again, this has been going on for some time, and I know that. Thank you for smiling. Got to do what we've got to do. This is about adhering to statute and the regulations to have a license. And again, that this lesson has been expensive and agonizing, but I think well learned. So appreciate it. I fully support the stipulation as presented to us today.
Chair, I echo Commissioner Krulicki's comments.
All right, well, I support the resolution, and I'm going to support any motion. I'm going to vote in favor of any motion to.
If I could please, before we make a motion, just want to put on the record that Ms. Noble takes this very seriously. And in fact, there was no condition on the license, but she just attended the seminar again on August 15th, June 13th. And we have the letter of attendance, and we forward that over to the gaming agent as well. So it's very serious to her. She takes it very serious, and she attended the seminar again.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have a motion?
Madam Chair, I would move for approval of the stipulation for settlement in order in case number 23-06 as read into the record and is agreed to by the parties.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Agent Marta Rosen and Senior Agent Peters for all their hard work during this investigation process.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to read in restricted number 14.
Restricted number 14 is the application of Artesian Partners LLC for a transfer of interest as noted on the agenda. Recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairwoman, members of the Commission, Madam Secretary Jeff Donato here, enrolled agent. Again, with me today in Las Vegas is Ms. Noble, and we're here seeking your approval of the transfer of interest whereby Mrs. Noble becomes 100% member of the entity that operates the tavern location.
Okay, thank you. I think we've had a lot of vetting of this. I feel vetted. I don't know about you. So at this time, does anyone have any additional questions or comments? All right, there being none, does anyone have a motion?
Madam Chair, I would move for approval of restricted item number 14 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and as recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And I'm sorry, can I just ask a question after the fact? I think that you guys said this last time, but I just wanted to make sure. All of the tax filings and such were already done with you as the 100% owner, correct?
I did one return, but waited. I haven't done my
Okay.
22 return until we.
So there's going to be no adjustments that are needed.
No.
If there are, you'll take care of them. Okay.
And,
Thank you.
and if this application is approved today, we will then take the approval letter and go to the city of Reno to make sure we change the ownership local licenses as well.
It was just approved.
Oh, yeah. It
Oh.
was approved.
That was an ex post
No longer.
Yeah,
facto kind of
I should have
question.
asked beforehand, but I thought you had clarified that last time, but I wanted to make sure. So I appreciate it. I know it's been stressful for you, to say the least, and I'm glad that you can move forward and keep focusing on making this a fun place to eat and drink.
This is a very special day for me. Thank you. guys.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, next on our agenda are the administrative reports. It's my understanding the chief is going, well, I was told the chief was going to give us a report. I thought I misunderstood. All right. Judge Assad.
Thank you, Judge. The September Gaming Control Board meeting will be on September 6th. Be a one-day meeting. We have 15 non-restricted items at the 9 o'clock calendar, 12 restricted items at the 1:30 calendar, and there will be one item on for a nomination to add someone to the list of excluded persons. And there'll be a reg workshop to follow that.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anything from our Attorney General today? Attorney General's office.
Nothing today, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, if we could close with our last agenda item. public-
Madam Chair, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I'm sorry,
Can
go
I
ahead.
Just interrupt. Could you describe what the reg workshop, what's that going to cover? I mean, the total effort that's been put forth for the last few months?
Believe it's going to be on, wouldn't that include what we, from the original reg workshop? Yeah.
Chief Hoffman here. It's my understanding it's going to be a quick go through for the purpose of public record of the regs that were put forth per the governor's order, regs that are going to be eliminated or modified.
Just a continuation from the original workshop. They'll probably take small business impact consideration as well.
Perfect. Thank you. I know the governor will be excited to hear that. And then I just have one other unrelated comment. I had the great pleasure yesterday of spending time in the Gaming Control Board Technology Lab. Chief Barbie entertained me and showed me the mysterious lab works. It was very informative, and I would urge my colleagues to go visit them. They're over by the airport, but it was just, I appreciate Chief Barbie and his team to accommodate me yesterday and giving me lots of information.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, could we close with our last agenda item, public comments?
This item is placed on the agenda to give the public an opportunity to comment on gaming-related matters.
All right, I will first go to Carson City. Anyone wishing to make a public comment in Carson City? It appears there's no one present in Carson City to make public comment. Anyone present here in Las Vegas? It appears there's no one present here to make public comment, and that will close our public comment section. This concludes the Nevada Gaming Commission meeting for the month of August. We are adjourned.